We
Jackson.
always say, just like how we always say hello when we start a call, I always say what's up gamers when we start a stream.
Yeah,
I have
and you
no
always
other
comment on it too.
I have no other default. Okay, I'm
I was
gonna
gonna say something.
quit Chrome.
Was.
Oh, you
We
gotta
were
monitor the
talking
chat,
about.
Evelyn.
I literally, I always do,
I
and I
know.
literally have.
No, I'm just saying that I
YouTube
don't
open.
have it at all, so it's your
Okay.
responsibility.
Okay. But I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? Oh, we were talking about because on Twitter it was trending that Vin Diesel had a new song.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
we were
yeah.
talking about Jeremy Renner. But I've just been listening to Miley Cyrus's cover of Heart of Glass because it's just genuinely a bop. And
Is
it's
that a
not
Jeremy
fair.
Renner song?
No, Heart of Glass. It's from the 80s.
I don't know
by
that song.
Who did Heart? It's a bop. Heart of Glass.
You won't be
It's
able to hear it.
Blondie.
Oh, okay, I don't know
It's
that song.
Blondie, Jackson.
You won't be able to hear it, but I'm gonna pull up Vin Diesel's new song and I'm gonna play it for the stream.
Jackson, what if there's a slur in it?
What if Vin Diesel just released a song that was like, he says the N-word like 40 times, and everyone's just like, yeah, we love it.
Yeah. It's really good. Twitter loves it.
Because that was the
It
clip that I
feels-
kept seeing
feels
was
right.
like the Kelly Clarkson show's like digital audience like dancing along to it, and I could just imagine that with like Vin Diesel just saying the N-word a bunch. They're all like,
A special message
Yeah.
from our friend Vin Diesel, who actually has a new single dropping today. Check this out.
See, I
Kelly,
have to wait 10 minutes
I am
for
so honored
that
okay,
be
I'm
able
to see
to
that
debut
because I
my
can't see
music
you, and I can
Right.
tell
on
you
your
did a little
show.
motion.
because you, since you first
I was gonna say something.
one idol,
okay.
and
I'm playing the
till
video
today
right now.
somehow maintained
Kate says,
your
I'm here, I'm queer, and I
authenticity.
have none fear.
I
Okay,
am
well,
blessed
great.
that on a year that
This
I
is
would
Vin
normally
Diesel
be
talking
on
about how blessed he
a
feels.
movie set. And as you know, that's not possible.
Did
I've
he
had
thank
another
Jesus
creative
and
outlet.
God?
No, not yet.
Another way to show
And the
you
footballman?
or share with you my
And
heart.
football
Okay,
God?
hold on.
It's
Stop
a separate
fucking.
God.
Stop talking,
To that
Vin. Let me
end-
hear the music.
Here's a sneak peek of Vin's collaboration with Kygo, Feel Like I Do.
I came here for the jams, man.
Okay, okay. Chat, let me know what you think of Vin Diesel's song.
Kate doesn't know what's going on, so Jackson is listening to Vin Diesel's new hot single. And we might talk about Jeremy Renner and or maybe Miley Cyrus. Okay, can the stream hear the music?
Yeah, the
or
stream can
is
hear
it
the
just
music.
you?
You're the only person who's
okay.
left out. Everybody else is partying with me.
Okay, cool, great. That's fine.
It's just kind of like a.
These are the new.
It just kind of feels like a like regular kind of pop song. It's not really that funny,
Yeah.
except that it's Vin
These are
Diesel.
the new beats to study too. Yeah.
It kind of
Did
sounds
you
like
say
the
I am Groot?
Chainsmokers.
That would be. Yeah.
Anyway, how'd you like that, Chad? It wasn't as funny as I thought it was gonna be.
It wasn't funny, but I did it.
But I did it. I was hoping that Vin Diesel's hit single was gonna be funnier than it was.
It's gonna be good stuff.
It just like sounded pretty good and like, I don't know. It's kind of funny that it's Vin Diesel's voice, but like even still, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. That was just like kind of a boring pop song. It's not Jeremy Renner's
So,
fucking
a lot of
stomp rock anthem.
Yeah. The Imagine Dragons wannabe. When everybody stopped wanting to be Imagine Dragons doesn't want to be Imagine Dragons
No.
anymore.
You know what's so interesting? Is that everybody
What?
associates that like shitty Jeep commercial stomp rock with that one Imagine Dragons song. But
Yeah.
like, that's not what Imagine Dragons sounds like most of the time.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it's just
they
like
just
that
have
one
that
song.
one song. I don't know why Imagine Dragons have gotten pegged as the shitty Jeep commercial.
Stop pegging
people.
Imagine Dragons.
But like, I just, not that I like love Imagine Dragons, but like, just seems unfair to me.
I know Imagine Dragons is pretty good. They got some solid bops.
I like their song from the Mission Impossible trailer.
Yeah.
Can't fight the friction! Remember that? And then they mashed it up with the Mission Impossible theme, and it fucking kicked so much ass. And then Henry Cavill reloaded his arms. Remember that? And then his mustache.
And then Jackson shat himself in the theater.
And then Henry
out of
Cavill's
sheer
mustache
excitement.
ruined Justice League.
Man, it sure did.
Yeah. Oh man, honestly,
Man, I wish to get to the point where I can do something with my body that just ruins a franchise. I want
honestly,
that power.
Mission Impossible Fallout was so good; it was basically worth it that it ruined Justice League.
Mission Impossible 4 was so good that it ruined
Justice League, yeah, and I'm not even mad about it.
Okay, Kate brought this up. Literally every single person on the planet is obsessed with Among Us.
Right.
That video game where you're a little astronaut man.
Yeah.
And I would be super down to play that. Jackson, we should stream that.
Yeah.
Because I super want to play it, and I also don't know where it's at. Is it on Steam?
Well, it's on everywhere. It's free on mobile, and it costs like $5 on PC.
Okay, great. I just got my first working check, so I got like money right now.
Awesome.
The first thing I'm gonna buy is a freaking stand for my iPhone, so I don't have to balance my iPhone on 2 bins and 2 candles.
I just started a job a little while ago. I don't know if I should really say where it is, but I'll just say with a package delivery company.
It's owned by a capitalist pig. One of them.
But
the main one.
Well, I think they all are, but whatever.
Yeah, you know.
But what was I gonna say? Oh, I just so happened, like, my first day that I was working was like payday. So I have to work for like 2.5 weeks.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Before I get my paycheck, and I'm super mad about it because I have very little money. So I have to fucking.
I've got bills to pay.
So I have to fucking drive Postmates while I'm working my new job in order to make ends meet until I get that first paycheck, which is whack. Good. I'm mad about it, but it's fine. It's whatever.
I was gonna say something. What it was. Oh, it was about Among Us. I'm on TikTok, so I've seen everybody's like cosplays and like dramatic stories about Among Us, as well as some of the memes.
All right.
But I'm just really excited because I want to play a little pink one with ram's horns. I think it's the type of thing where you have to either earn or buy hats, but I want the hats so bad.
Yeah, I think it would be fun. We'd have to. Do you think? We'd have to get it on PC, I think. Do you think it'd be more fun to play it with our friends or for the two of us to go on to, like, an anonymous online server?
We could do both.
Yeah?
Just go in and fuck up everything. Well, because I'm really bad at those kind of games where it's like, oh, one of you is the imposter, so you have to, like, play it cool. Like, every time that we fucking play Jackbox, and there's that one game where it's like everybody has to answer the question, but then one person gets the wrong question. Right. I fucking suck at that
Oh, that's right. That game's
just,
so fun.
It's so fun, but I hate when I'm it, because I just, like, panic.
I remember...
Alan, is it you? And I'm like, no.
There was one prompt when I was playing that game, and it was like, name a food... Like, the prompt that everyone got was like, name a food that disagrees with you. But you eat anyway, or something like that. And I put caramel M&Ms, because, like, when I eat too much caramel candy, it makes my stomach feel bad. But I eat caramel M&Ms all the time whenever our friends would, come over.
Any second that you can be.
So they were like, oh, Jackson, you eat caramel M&Ms all the time. It has to be you. I was like, no, I just get diarrhea when I eat the caramel M&Ms. And then it wasn't me, and it was the truth.
I have diarrhea a lot, thank you.
Yeah, I have diarrhea basically right now.
Anyway, I have to go. I just remember one time we were playing that game, and it's one of the like game modes for that is that you get a prompt, and then you're all supposed to point at somebody in the group. So it's like, who's the youngest? And you all point at somebody. But I just remembered I just kept pointing up, and like, it's God, buddy, and that was just the joke the whole time. Up to my man, J-Man.
Yeah.
Who's your best friend? Jesus.
Jesus.
Who are you taking to camp? Jesus. It was really good, because the first time it was obvious that was me, but then after that, it's who knows if it was me.
Anyone's game.
And, yeah. Some people just want to watch the world burn.
I'm hoping, I've got my fingers crossed, that I'll be able to find my escaped snake on stream. Oh, I didn't say that on stream. My snake got out of his tank. and he's hiding somewhere, and I can't find him. So hopefully, just
Well,
it
see,
seems
Jackson,
like
he
the
should
way things
slowly-
work is that I'll find him on stream and I'll be like, oh! But I'm just crossing my fingers that that's what happens because I think it'll be fun.
Does he love you yet, or is he still afraid of you?
No, he's always been pretty chill. Although he's just been being a super bad boy lately. Because he got out...
He keeps getting out of
like,
his tank.
well, yeah, he got out... Because basically the entire time I've had him, he's, like, never gotten out of his tank. He got out one time, but I found him, like, right next to his tank, so he was just chilling. I was like, okay, I'll let it slide. He, like, got out, and, like, I really had to, like, search for him for, like, a couple of days the first time, like, earlier this week. But then I found him, and I, like, put him back. I was like, oh, it's just a one-time thing. He got confused or whatever. You know, I didn't, like, put him on maximum security or anything. And then, like, 2 days later, like, yesterday, he, like, got out again and escaped. And I'm like, fuck, well, now you're in trouble, little guy.
How are you going to punish a snake?
I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out, though.
Just, like, I don't know.
He's going to catch these hands.
I love you, dog!
Yeah.
See, if I had a snake, and I don't, because people have those videos of, like, their snake that, like, loves them, and it, like, crawls all, like, over them, and it, like, it genuinely has, like, emotions and stuff, but not all snakes are like that. A lot of snakes are like, I'm gonna be over here, and you be over there, and this is our whole arrangement. So, like, I don't know. I don't know what I would do if my son didn't love me, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Snakes don't really love you. They can, like, get familiar with you. And just, like, not be threatened by you.
Safe.
But that's, like, as good as you can hope for. Anna's thinking
Kate
about
says
getting
he
a
needs
bird.
enrichment. Oh, so that they can fight to the death.
Yeah.
Oh, PETA, please don't report our stream.
I mean, yeah, I'm
Who do
sure.
you think would win, Anna's bird or Guillermo?
Yeah, my snake's name is Guillermo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're looking for him. It's one of those things where it's like, I have no idea where he could be. He's, like, most likely still in my room, but he could have, like, crawled out and been, like, anywhere downstairs. You're like, well, just keep an eye out, I guess. Like,
he's just slowly developing your leg as we speak, actually.
Yeah, snakes they only have to eat, like, once a week. So it's not like I'm like, oh my god, we gotta find him, like, immediately. Like, it's the kind of thing where it's like, he'll be chilling out and he might be kind of cold, but, like, you know.
He's fine.
He's fine. Especially since he apparently wants to...
got big stompy feet.
Yeah, apparently he just wants to be outside so bad. Whatever, he can stay there for a while, see if I care.
It's winter, Guillermo, you don't understand. It's not safe for you out there, son. I'm trying to paint a picture that your mother Gothel, basically.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know how to do it, but I'm doing it.
What's up, stream? Chat, I mean, what's up with you guys?
Stream? Dream?
What's up with the chat?
The chat. Kate said he needs enrichment. Kate said Guillermo, ooh. And then, yeah. And then we talked about Among Us for a little bit.
Can we start referring to our chat as the unwashed masses?
What about the washed mess?
The clean boys. Masses.
The Irish Spring masses.
The squeaky masses.
That's bad. I don't like that. So Jackson, what has been up with you other than new job being bad?
No, it's not a bad job. I actually like that job a lot so far.
Well, yeah, but you know.
I don't know, I'll just say it. I'm not technically working for Amazon. I'm working for Ultimate Delivery, who have a contract with Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's like, we just get the packages, and it's like our responsibility to like get them out to people. I get to drive a big van and take people their packages. I get to hold a bazillion packages per day and be like, I wonder what's in here, and then never find out, which is cool.
It's like Christmas, but the bad part.
Right, yeah. But like, it's cool, and they've got a cool thing set up where it's like, you work 10-hour shifts, and I'm doing 3 days a week, which is like super manageable.
Yeah.
And what's cool about it is that like there's a finite number of like deliveries you gotta take every
Yeah.
day. So it's like once you're done, then you just come back and you go home. But in order to like incentivize you to actually work quickly, you get paid for 10 hours no matter how long you actually take. Because otherwise you would just fucking drag your feet and be like, "Oh, I need to get paid, so I'm going to take 8 hours to to deliver everything." But they're like, "No, be as quick as you can because that quickness is good and we'll pay you for 10 hours regardless," which is pretty sick. So
That's good.
yeah, it's a good job so far. I mean, I'm only 3 shifts into it, but it seems like it's hella so far.
Yeah. See, my job's going pretty good too. I work 6-hour shifts, but anywhere from like 4 to 2 times a week, which is also really manageable.
Right.
But it's a lot of like picking up stuff, but like not heavy stuff. But I'm fucking tired of Christmas, dog. I hate it.
What, already?
No, dude, so the reason I'm tired of Christmas is because we're getting all of our Christmas stuff now to like put out. Like already. Like we've stopped like putting out Halloween stuff. Like we're only like doing Christmas stuff now. But the Halloween stuff is still out where Christmas stuff should be. So we're getting absolutely slammed with Christmas merchandise, but there's nowhere to put it because Halloween is still there. And the places where there's supposed to be Christmas stuff is already just fucking crammed full of Christmas stuff. So it's just the past like 4 shifts. If someone was like following me around, it's literally just me shoving Christmas stuff into places where there's already too much Christmas stuff. Like with like I had to put up Christmas wreaths and there's just no more room. So if you were following me around with the camera, you would just see me just like tossing them up there because there's nothing to do. I had to shove
Just be like
100 Christmas pillows underneath a Halloween display to the point where it's like, you know how pillows are soft? They weren't soft anymore because they were crammed so tightly that they were like hard.
You've like
and then
created a
manager had to
singularity.
like, yeah, exactly. The manager had to like come over and tell the other manager who's like in charge of me to be like, "Yo, you gotta stop putting Christmas pillows under that because it's at maximum.
You're gonna
There's
create
no
a
more
black
going
hole
under
if you're
there."
not careful.
Yeah, something terrible is going to happen.
Okay, do you want to start the show?
Let's start.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna make myself a drink before we start the show. I'll be right back.
Oh, you always fucking do this.
Why? Because I like to have a drink.
Do it before I have a drink, and I got it at a responsible time when I wasn't streaming.
Okay, I'm leaving. You have to entertain the unwashed masses.
Fucking God. Just gonna talk about what I think Among Us is, and that's about it. What I think happens in Among Us. Because there's like an overreaching plot, right? I know there isn't, but wouldn't that be funny? The pillow singularity is really good, though. I feel like you had 100 home decor stores shoving pillows underneath one thing, then yeah, you would eventually reach pillow singularity. Or it's just like bulletproof. It's just gonna bounce off of there. There's no way it's getting through. This always happens, and I hate it. See, one of the reasons I'm excited for Among Us. Yeah. I know it's like Werewolf for to see, but I like my inner D&D nerd of playing a tiefling is that I know one of the little like hats that you can wear on your little astronaut guy is a set of little like ram's horns, and I'm like, oh, like a tiefling. So now I want that. There's also the little like bean sprout that's like the 2 little leaves, so you like look like a little like berry or a little carrot or whatever, and that's also cute.
What's up? How'd it go?
I don't know what I know what the general setting for Among Us is. Yeah, I've just been talking about Among Us.
Okay.
See, the way that I play video games is that I play them incorrectly in that every single video game is a fashion game disguised as if it isn't a fashion game, and that's how I play video games.
Do you guys like this?
What did you do? I can't see you.
Oh, did you not hear it?
Are you just slurping loudly?
No, I'm just pouring my drink.
Oh, I don't know. I can't see you until like 10 seconds later.
But you should have been able to hear it.
But you're not as good at ASMR as you think you are, Jackson.
I should have turned the gain up. Also, I didn't put enough rum in this drink, and I can't really taste it.
And now it's just fucking Dr. Pepper.
I want to get plastered.
Like I'm a baby. I came here to get drunk. That's it.
Okay.
All of you are enablers.
Let me start my audio. Dealy Adaptato.
What's funny? Oh wait, I ruined it.
Mine was funny. Adaptato. Get it?
Oh man. Adoption. Okay. Record. Oh, why aren't you doing it?
Is Vi in the chat?
Let me see. I've been setting stuff up. Oh, my computer froze. No, it didn't. We're good. No, I don't think so.
Because Vi really loves this movie, and I totally didn't even, like, make the connection. Because we decided this, like, 3 days ago, and
Yeah.
I, like, there wasn't enough time for me to, like, put it together to, like, ask if Vi wanted to be on this episode.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I, like, said
Vi
something
can
to...
just come up behind you.
Yeah,
honestly.
I guess.
That's fine.
I said something to Tabby about how we were doing this, and Vi was like, "Oh, you guys are doing Adaptation?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, "Oh, that's right. Vi really likes that movie. I probably should have asked them if they wanted to come on the
no, I
podcast."
should've asked Vi.
But, so yeah. Vi, if you're listening, sorry. I guess we haven't had Vi on the podcast at all. I guess we gotta do that.
No, we haven't. They were very prominent in our last stream, but we are not as a guest.
Right.
They were a guest of a guest.
Okay, you ready to start?
Burp. Hold on. Okay, have I been recording this whole time and it just delayed telling me? No, okay.
I'm gonna start recording in 3, 2,
Oh my
1.
god. Fucking Adobe Audition. Just isn't working.
You gotta fix that.
Come on. I know. Listen. Literally, like, I'm hitting the record button and then just, like, literally nothing's happening. Like, it's not giving me any, like, pop-up, like, warnings. It's literally just like, no. No, actually.
That'll happen every once in a while. Just restart it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason for it. I think it's something that you, like...
One or more files are actively processing jobs. Please cancel these jobs or wait for them to finish. So is it just, like, really trying? Device sample rates do not match. Please check the audio hardware. Okay,
I'm gonna fire you. I think.
I understand. Won't take that clip effects. No, where is it? Where do I find my preferences? I'm just gonna turn it off and turn it back on. No, don't tell me that somebody's doing a job. Oh my god, stop.
By the way, I guess
Stop.
I'll tease that we've got a big announcement coming up for the No Nerds Allowed future.
That's what we'll call it.
Yeah. And I won't...
If we rebrand one more time, I swear to God.
I won't give it away. Well, we are gonna rebrand. We're gonna have like new.
Well, but yeah, we are
pictures
gonna
and stuff.
rebrand, but you know what I mean.
But let's just
a return
say
to force.
that we are gonna add a third permanent host, and
It's Jim Belushi.
I'll let you guys speculate on who that could be until we announce it. Ooh.
It's Jim Belushi.
We're kind of just playing it by ear, and we've asked the person already, and they said yes. It's not like I've just decided that fucking Tabby's gonna be on 100% of the time, and I haven't told her yet. I guess
that also is happening.
I guess I just
really
deconfirmed Tabby, but whatever. Anyway.
Okay, hold on. No, it's probably because I was editing audio, And now now I'm going back to recording audio, so the sample rates are all fucked up.
Who do you guys think it is in the chat? Who do you think is the
I
new...
think it's Jim Belushi.
Jim Belushi died in the 80s.
I said what I said, Jackson. I'm gonna have to fucking use Audacity. Has been changed. You want to open the yes? Yes,
Which
I would
one-
like to open that.
Which one died? They're the two brothers, and one of them died, and the other
You're
one is
about
still
to.
around.
John Belushi? Is it
Yeah.
John and Jim?
I think it is John and Jim. Hold on.
Whichever one is still alive, that's the one we're not having on the podcast. Okay, it's just straight up, like, not giving me
Okay.
audio hardware.
Jim Belushi is still alive. John Belushi died in the 80s.
Okay, then we're having John Belushi on the show. Oh, God, I'm gonna fucking use Audacity. I have the audacity to use Audacity. Because Audition is just like, no, actually, we're not gonna tell you any information that you need in order to fix the problem. So, yeah. I know Audacity is a free program, but man, does it just look like shit.
Yeah, no. Audacity's not,
Okay. Are you recording?
No, not yet, but I'm about to be. I'm
Okay,
about to be.
in a minute. 3, 2, 1, recording.
Alright. Art
Test. Isn't
always
that
exciting
or
that
good?
Okay, fair enough. Do you not like this movie?
Relatable content. No, I do.
Okay. So,
Listen, sometimes art is bad. That's a part of the movie.
what's a good intro for this? Because I don't even know how to broach the subject for this one.
I don't know how to explain this movie, honestly.
What if I just pitched you the idea of this podcast? Would that be suitably?
I mean, yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. All right.
So we open. Jackson says, "No nerds allowed."
So Adeline, I have this idea for a podcast. And
Yeah.
it goes like this. Basically, it would just be two white people talking about movies and just being, in general, not as smart as they think they are.
Yeah,
But
one
I'm
of them
having
is
a-
a woman.
I'm having
so
a-
it's like a little bit better.
I'm having a really hard time cracking this idea, and I guess I just wanted your input. What would, for example, what would you think it should be called?
Only cool kids allowed. I think it needs a little polishing, a little fixing up a little
So,
bit.
here's what I
you're
think.
just so good at this kind of thing, Jackson. I think you should take a crack.
But
at
I
it.
don't know. I can't do it. What if
I'm
it
so
sucks?
fat and ugly.
Okay.
I don't know.
So here's
God,
what I
I
think.
fucking
It's
hate it.
called.
It's so bad.
I think it would be called No Nerds Allowed, and I would say, "Hi, I'm Jackson McMurray," and then I don't know. You could say something.
Like I'm Adeline McMurray. No, that sucks. I hate it.
And this is No
God.
Nerds Allowed. Maybe that's it. Is this? I don't know if this is funny.
Maybe I don't know. We're too far in. This is the bit
The
now.
sunk cost. It fucking sucks.
Man,
I
is
love-
there like a sad sack award that Nicolas Cage could win
Yeah,
for this
for
movie?
this movie.
'Cause
There's this line that I love. I mean, not to get
he
into
really
this movie.
sells it as a sad sack.
We need to set up this movie
Yeah.
for the audience if you haven't seen it. But there's this line reading in it where fucking Nicolas Cage, like, opens. Hold on, let me bring up my notes real quick.
Are you talking about when he's like screaming into his tape recorder?
Yeah, there's this moment where he like gets this brainwave and he's super excited, And he's just like, we open on Charlie Kaufman, fat, bald, old, repulsive. And he's like super excited, like talking into his tape recorder.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me.
Talking about how much he sucks.
Yeah, it's just really good. Okay, so
It's really good.
today we are covering Adaptation. This is our Randy's Choice episode. This is not the kind of movie we would usually do on this podcast. But that's Randy, baby. That's why we do this.
I had never heard of this movie.
So this was Charlie Kaufman's second ever screenplay. He was working in TV for a long time, and then he wrote Being John Malkovich, which is just like this weird, insane bananas movie that's like existential and surreal, but like also sort of marketable, like at the same time in a weird sort of like star-driven way. It's a super weird movie that I quite like. But I think I like this movie even better, to be honest. So this movie, I'm starting with who Charlie Kaufman is, because it's kind of important. Because this movie is about Charlie Kaufman writing the screenplay for his next movie, which is the movie you're watching.
Yeah.
And
it's very meta in a lot of ways.
It's super funky because okay. Here's the story of how this movie came to be. I mean, more so than even just like the depiction of events in the movie. Because that's what this movie is about, is how this movie came to be. But so there's this book. The book, everything in this is real to a certain extent.
Okay.
The book,
I thought it was fictional.
No, the book is a real book that Charlie Kaufman got hired. So it's this book that was big in the late 90s about this woman who like followed this like flowered smuggler, and it's this very like sort of poetic nonfiction book about this guy who like sells these illegally trafficked flowers to people and makes a lot of money at it. And so they set up a movie at whatever studio it is, and they have Jonathan Demme set to direct, and they hired Charlie Kaufman to write the adaptation. And then at some point, Charlie Kaufman's like working on this thing in secret, and at some point during that process, Jonathan Demme drops out because he like couldn't make it work. And it's around this time. This is the same time that Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman are making Being John Malkovich. And Charlie Kaufman tells Spike Jonze about this like crazy galaxy, because like the movie is autobiographical in the sense that he has to make this adaptation of this weird sort of plotless book, and he's like, I don't fucking know how to do this. He's like, I don't have an idea, I don't get it, and I like at the same time I want to be true to this thing, but I also, I don't want to make like a Hollywood movie. And he's like going in circles and he can't figure it out, and he has this galaxy brain idea to like include himself in the screenplay and make a movie about him trying to crack the adaptation of whatever the book is called. And obviously he's like kind of just doing it for himself to like maybe try to break his writer's block, but he starts talking to Spike Jonze about it while they're making Being John Malkovich. And he's like, I haven't like pitched this to anybody, and I don't think I actually want to do this, but I've been working on this weird thing where I've been like writing myself into this screenplay in hopes that it like gets some juices flowing and like I can do something else. And Spike Jonze is just like, they're looking for a director for this movie right now, and I will straight up sign on immediately if we do that. If we do this weird bonkers thing you're doing. And so basically Spike Jonze signs on to direct this movie and like does his best to sort of keep this script a secret from like the higher ups for as long as he can into pre-production, until eventually he has to like hand over this weird crazy finished script to the studios. And it's sort of a like easier to ask for forgiveness than permission kind of thing. It's like, I don't know, you already sunk $100,000 into this, and so they were like, yeah, guess we can do this. And the author of the book liked it, and she thought it was cool, so that was, like, part of the thing that, like, sort of, like, edged them towards doing this weird, crazy thing. Apparently, originally, this movie was going to be Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, and John Turturro in the Chris Cooper role. But basically, Nicolas Cage loved it so much that he eBay sniped Tom Hanks and was like, "I'll do it for way less money.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do it for like
could
basically
you
no
imagine
money."
Tom Hanks in this role, though?
Do you think that'd be better, or do you think it'd be worse?
Well, so I don't know how I feel about Nicolas Cage, because I don't think that he's a bad actor in any way, shape, or form. I do think he's accepted bad roles and bad movies before,
Right.
which have kind of, like, tainted his name. This isn't news to anybody.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. Like, he does a really good job of acting in this movie, but, like, as relatable as his character is, like, with his struggles with, like, being creative and being original and, like, just struggling in, like, the world of screenwriting, which is, like, totally relatable and I totally get. But I fucking hated him. Like, he was just a sad sack, and I feel like I wouldn't get that response if it was Tom Hanks. But I don't know if that makes it better or not.
Right, yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I don't
basically,
know if Tom Hanks would be down to masturbate as much as there is masturbation in this movie.
Right, I mean, fair enough. But yeah, basically...
That's like my one criticism, is that there's a lot of masturbation.
Oh, come on,
in this
whatever.
movie.
Real life has a lot of masturbation,
It's
Adeline.
great. What?
But, so literally this movie, the main character is Charlie Kaufman, as played by Nicolas Cage. And it's the story of him writing this screenplay up until the third act, where there's, like, a really crazy twist that I really love.
Yeah.
But, like...
Is that part true?
No, that part's not true.
Okay, good. That's the part when you're like, it's all autobiographical. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah, because, like,
and the lady's down with it?
So that's the thing, right? Is, like, the whole movie, one of the things that Charlie Kaufman keeps talking about is, like, there's something inherently uncommercial to this whole thing. And one of, like, this book, you know? And there's this thing that he keeps saying over and over again. It's like, she never even, like, got to see one of these flowers. Like, they were so rare, and, like, at the end of the day, the woman who wrote this book never got to see them, even though she cared so much about them. And then there's this moment, like that moment where... Okay. So, I'm trying to, like, make this kind of make sense for the listeners.
Complicated.
Yeah. So there's...
Yeah.
Charlie Kaufman has written himself a fictional twin brother in this movie that sort of represents, like, his, like sort of what he wishes he could be in a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
Who's, like, this parallel screenwriter who just, like, is excited about writing, like, the most rote, like, cheesy action thriller movie. Yeah, like, just the most cliche thing in the world. But he, like, cares about it and, like, works at it to make it cool and interesting, you know? In a way that Charlie Kaufman in this movie is totally incapable of doing. Anyway, so, like, the twin brother sort of represents, like, the more commercial element of filmmaking and screenwriting in a way. So there's this moment where, like, Charlie Kaufman says, like, "Oh, Donald, my twin brother, like, do you want to help me?" Like, he's had this tense relationship with him the whole movie, and then he finally gives in, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to help me out and help me work on this?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then right afterwards is, like, when shit starts to get weird, where it's like, oh, she was sleeping with him, and, like, oh, no, we gotta find out, we gotta go undercover. And, like, and there's this moment that I think...
They're doing orchid drugs.
Yeah, and there's this moment that I think is really cool and smart, where Meryl Streep's character, like, sees one of those orchids, right? She's, like, with Chris Cooper in the swamp, and she, like, sees one of the flowers and picks it up and is like, wow, all this for just that. Even though we've clearly established that in the story she never saw one of the flowers. So, like, it sort of, like, tips off the audience. Like, there's this inconsistency. It sort of, like, telegraphs to you that, like, we're starting to fictionalize this now. At least, I don't know, that's the way I read it, I thought.
Yeah.
Which I think is super cool.
The way that I read it wasn't that we're shifting into fiction now. I read it as, oh, she was lying in her book, basically, because the book ends with her never seeing the flower, but then we're shown the scene where she does find the flower, and she's like, oh, it's just a fucking flower. Like,
Right.
there's no metaphor, there's nothing, it's just a fucking flower.
Right.
And so I kind of took that as, because then that's when we start to realize that she was sleeping with the guy, and they were taking drugs, and, like, all these things, like, everything
Right.
starts to unravel. So I just took it as she was just lying in her book to create this kind of beautiful metaphorical nothing, when in reality there's a whole lot of shit happening, which
Right.
kind of ties back to the seminar that he goes to,
Right.
where the seminar guy is like, crazy shit happens in real life all the time. If you
Right.
can't find some crazy shit, then I don't know what kind of life you're living.
Right.
So for the book to kind of be this fantastical lie, and for reality to kind of be batshit crazy, I think
Right.
totally fits in with, like, all the things we've been playing with.
Yeah, because I mean, not to ruin your interpretation of the movie or anything, but like the reality is that all the
Yeah.
stuff that's like in the third act of that movie is totally fictionalized. Because like the idea is like Charlie Kaufman is sort of like giving in to like his instincts to like make it cool and exciting. So that's the point where like once Donald Kaufman, quote unquote, sort of takes over the script and takes over the story, all of a sudden there's drugs and guns and a guy gets eaten by an alligator and sex and all this like cool sensationalized stuff that you want to, and there's no masturbation in it at all. Like it just
anymore.
It sort of like just represents like him saying fuck it and being like there's nothing wrong with like making something that people want to see, like I don't know. And this there's so like I've talked on this podcast a certain amount. Okay, you know what? I've been talking way too much this episode. What do you think of this movie, Adeline? General thoughts. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
This movie really was just kind of dragging me along for a long time. Honestly, it was the ending, that third act, that really got me on board, because I felt like it was a payoff to a lot of ideas. Because the whole first two acts are kind of very, like, they're not very substantial. Like, not in, like, there's things that are happening and they matter, but it's all kind of up in the air, or, like, exploring ideas and like how much he hates himself and how much he's just lost all passion for this thing that he like, how hard it is to keep passion in your work when your work is art and it's something that brought you joy, and then suddenly it's your job, and how hard it could be to keep your passion in that thing that you have to do.
Right.
And like versus this woman who's basically is passionate about another person's passion, and like, to me, this movie is just about like the lengths that we go to either rekindle passion or to find a passion in the first place, which I think is a really cool thing to talk about. There are times in this movie I don't like when they sometimes tie passion to sex, which goes back to the masturbation scenes.
Right.
Where he's lost all passion in his life from his work, because his work is just something that he used to be passionate about, but now it's just sucking the passion out of him. And it affects his relationship with his girlfriend so much that they break up, and like
right.
He like, I understand why those masturbation scenes are in there, but there's scenes where he like meets women and then fantasizes about them and then masturbates about them, even while like his like relationships of like him like actually talking to these women are like totally fine and totally relatable. It's, I don't know, I think it's a part of me because one of my greatest fears is basically to talk to an incel without realizing that I'm talking to an incel, where I'm gonna like end up on a forum where it's like, oh, a girl looked at me and she was, I smelled her breath, like that kind of thing. And just the fact that like he has a totally like, they're awkward, or sometimes they're kind of like based on the fact that he's obviously aroused by them, but like they're still like normal interactions, but then he goes home and like masturbates about them, that like really freaked me out and kind of took me out of the character, because he's like this guy who like struggles with his self-esteem and his self-esteem with his work and all this stuff. And, like, I think he's a totally relatable character. But then, like, when that stuff kind of happened, I was like, now I'm freaked out by you, Like, it's just crossed, like, too many times.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, there's plenty of things to talk about the morality of what you think about when you masturbate, I guess. But like, I don't
I
know.
mean, yeah.
I think I think the biggest function it serves is that, like, I mean, not to, like, it serves this cycle of self-loathing, where it's
Yeah.
like,
No, absolutely.
you talk to somebody and then later you're like, fuck, I really wish like I could have a
It
relationship
had
with this
gone this
person,
way.
and you
Yeah.
fantasize about it and then you masturbate about it, and then after you masturbate you're like, fuck, that was gross, like, and I hate that.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, it sucks that I did that, and like it sucks that I keep doing that, and you just like hate
Mm-hmm.
yourself more. It's like this cycle you just like go through, and that's like what this movie's
Yeah.
about. Is like it's about this guy who just like is in this like pattern that he can't like break
Yeah.
out of. And the opening of this movie is just that voiceover of him being like, I should, like, I gotta start working out, like, and I should learn to play an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like all these things that you want to do and you think about doing all the time, but you just don't have the energy to like really follow through with it, or like you don't have the stamina to like stick to something like that. And it's like it's the
Mm-hmm.
whole movie is about sort of like over like breaking the cycle, like finding something that can like make you skip that beat and be like, oh, I've got a foothold now, like I can
Mm-hmm.
work on something and be excited about something and make it happen, and like now I've like sort of broken out of this thing. um
Mm-hmm.
and like I think that is, I mean, the movie's about like a handful of different things in a way that's really concise and
Mm-hmm.
clear that I really like. But I think that is like kind of the biggest theme, is like this element of like self-loathing and like having to
Yeah. The cycles of
having to break
self-loathing.
out of it, and how that's not healthy or interesting, and you gotta,
Mm-hmm.
for life to be interesting, for life to be cool and exciting and the kind of thing
Yeah.
you want to write a script about, you can't just fucking hate
Mm-hmm.
yourself all the time. I mean, that's what I think is cool, is like,
Yeah.
like crazy shit happens in life all the time. Life is cool and interesting. And the whole thing is that Charlie Kaufman's trying to write this script to make it like as realistic as possible, quote unquote, in relation to
Mm-hmm.
his like shitty life that he hates. And basically what it comes down to is like, hey, who wants to see that? It's like, if you hate your life, why would anybody else like to watch your life?
Yeah.
And it's like
Mm-hmm.
having to I don't know. I don't want to say it's about like having a positive attitude, but I really think it is. I think there's like a
Yeah.
shift in your own life and brain that takes place that allows you to sort of just be happier and not hate yourself so much. And, it's one of those things that
Mm-hmm.
is like a sore subject because, if you have a mental illness, it can be really hard, or like all those sorts of
Mm-hmm.
things. But there are certain elements of like the way you feel being like a choice you have to make. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily an easy choice, like you just fucking flip a switch and you're happy, but it's
Yeah.
about like decisions about how you want to think and what you want to do and how you want to engage with the world around you that you have to be cognizant of.
Mm-hmm.
That is my biggest takeaway from the movie,
Yeah.
frankly.
And that's the part. That's the part of the movie that I liked, is when we got to that theming, and like the moment that he like got out of that cycle and started like asking his brother for help, and like he does go to the seminar to like talk with the experienced guy, like all that stuff. Like as soon as we hit that point, then I was like, oh, I'm totally down for this, because it's not like, basically I didn't know where this movie was gonna go as I was watching it, because it's that scene where he's talking to his agent, and his agent keeps like making all those gross jokes about the women in his office.
Right.
And it's just it's supposed to be like a reflection of like how fucked up the industry is, and like this
Right.
guy is just like, oh, just like he's giving him this like weird half-assed advice, and he like keeps like interrupting the weird advice to make these gross jokes about his female coworkers and stuff.
Right.
And like at that point in the movie, I didn't know what the movie was trying to be. I didn't know if the movie was going to be one of those where it's like, oh, it's gritty and realistic, so every single person is a sex offender and everything sucks and
Right.
everything's bad. Like, like that kind of movie.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know what we were doing. So when we got to the end of the movie and it's like, oh no, like that kind of life is cool and fun and that sucks, and these cycles of self-loathing don't, like, they're not true, basically. Like
Right.
you like the world is cool and good, and just pretending like it's bad because you hate yourself isn't good.
Right.
Like I liked when it started to get positive. I like the positive side about it because I don't like that. Actually, the world sucks and is bad.
Right,
Did you not
yeah.
know that? Like, I hate those stories. So that's what I thought what the movie was doing for a little bit, and then once they stopped doing that, we're like, oh no, actually this is positive. I was like, oh great, I love it.
And like, okay, first of all, both of us watched this on Tubi TV.
Yeah.
And there is something supremely surreal about having this movie get interrupted by fucking Olive Garden ads that made the viewing very strange, which I just think is very
First
funny.
of all, I love when you open up Tubi for the first time, and it gives you like the little notification of like Tubi, like all the streaming service, all these like more movies than Netflix. But they're like, more movies than Netflix. It's free. It's legal. And I was like, I didn't think
That
it wasn't legal. Tubi, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
Did somebody think this was illegal? And like, that's not, I would like to imagine you like go into Olive Garden and you're like, hello, table for one, please, because I'm depressed and I hate myself. And they're like, all right,
gotta
welcome
work
to
on my
Olive Garden,
screenplay.
family friendly and legal. Come this way. Won't you dine with us?
So yeah, Tubi TV.
Legal Olive Garden.
I mean, look,
You
I
heard
feel
of
like
God's IHOP, now get ready for legal Olive Garden.
I feel like there was a certain point in like the internet where like looking for music, it was hard to tell when something was legal or not. I remember there was a website called Groove Shark when I was like in middle school that I discovered, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Honestly, it sort of just was kind of like Spotify in the sense that you couldn't like download music or anything, but you could just like look up a song. It was like, there it was, and you could like stream it and just play it. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. Like, this seems super cool. But eventually, and it like seemed really legit and like clean, you know? But eventually I started noticing as like a 7th grader that like multiple songs were like uploaded a bunch of different times, like by individual people, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. I looked it up and I was like, oh no, this is not a legal service that I've been partaking in. Anyway,
and you're in 7th grade, so you're like, I'm gonna get arrested.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, if I'm correct, the copyright law for stuff like that is like you engaging with it is not illegal. What's illegal is like putting it out in the world. Yeah. Anyway, not that I was ever committing crimes, but like it was just one of those weird things where I was like, oh no, how could I have
Jackson,
done that?
I hate to break it to you, but this entire podcast has actually been a sting operation to make you admit that. So
middle school Groove Shark.
I'm sorry to say the police are habits. On the way. Yeah. I didn't know. I was just on Napster. I didn't know.
But yeah, anyway, there's this weird thing of like this like collection of free streaming services now, which is like Tubi TV and IMDb TV and Pluto TV and now
only thing. Like, the problem with all those free services is that if you want to watch something, like, weird and not very popular, like Adaptation, they're great. But not have much Reddit on them that, like, nobody wants to watch. I think IMDb has Shrek on it, and that's, like, the big thing that they have going for them is the fact that they have the Shrek movie. But, that's it.
Right.
And then we've got it's like when you go to like when you're trying to get like what is it called when you stream television to your TV? What is it called? When you're trying to get like when you're just getting like regular channels and they're just like,
cable?
Oh, if you get this package, we give you like when you're trying to get cable packages. And they're like, oh, there's like we'll give you 10 billion channels, and it's like cool. I watch maybe 5 channels.
Right.
So I don't know I would want 1,000 more. It's like that. It's like we got one movie that we know you want to watch and you come here because it's free. But everything else is weird movies you've never heard of from 2002.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, every single one of those. So now there's Peacock, which is the big one. That's like a big, high-profile, like, well-funded streaming service that is free, that you can, like, pay to remove the ads, you know? And they've got like 30 Rock and fucking The Phantom Thread is on there and like a whole bunch of stuff you might want to watch.
Because that's NBC. Right?
Yeah. But it's interesting that like Crackle, like it's one of those things where it's like I'm not gonna just like sit at home and open up Crackle and like see what I can dig into, you know. But I have an app on my phone called Just Watch, which is basically just like a database of like what streaming services everything is on. So like every once in a while, I'm like, oh man, I want to watch this movie. I wonder if it's on anything, and I open it up and it's on IMDb TV, and I'm just like, oh fuck yeah, like jackpot.
Hell
like,
yeah.
Every once in a while, like one of those weird movies that you happen to want to watch is like available to you, and you're like, I love Crackle. Crackle's great. Like. And it takes that specific scenario. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's like I'm not just gonna come home and be like, I can't wait to kick back and open up Pluto TV, see what they've got cooking for me today.
See what the new thing is.
Yeah.
But yeah. Back to this movie. The problem with this movie, talking about it on the podcast, is that it's not very funny to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this movie's pretty funny in a lot of places, too.
I didn't laugh that much, because the description, it's described as a comedy drama. I didn't really laugh all that much during this movie, and I think it was maybe because I was too focused on paying attention and trying to understand what was happening, that someone would make a joke, and I just wouldn't get it, because I was too busy trying to keep things straight. Because what's happening is that you have the screenwriter writing the script, and then you also have the lady in the process of writing the book, and those two stories are happening side by side. So you have to like, and then at the third act, when shit hits the wall, they like combine, and you're like, oh, this is weird. But so you have to be paid attention for the first part, because we're like shifting in between these two stories, and so I would be like, I remember one time there was like a commercial break and I looked away, and then that scene where he gets into the car accident and like his wife and his mom dies happens, and I was like, oh wait, hold on, I gotta go back because Olive Garden made me forget what we're doing.
You also just don't seem
in the sauce of Olive Garden.
Right. You also just don't seem to respond to like sort of subtle comedies like this, like things that are like not laugh out loud funny. Like, I remember specifically you being really weirded out when I talked about Thoroughbreds being a comedy, which it is. It's just like, and like Uncut Gems, you seem to resist thinking was funny.
I think those are the type of movies that I find funny the second time, but I don't find them funny the first time. Mm-hmm. And then whenever I record a podcast about them, it's always the first time, because movies like those, because they're subtle comedies, which basically means that we're doing drama 90% of the time, and then 10% of the time we're doing comedy. So I'm like focused on like what we're doing so much the first time, because I want to make sure I understand what's happening. And so then when they make a joke, I'm like, I don't have time. I have to be paying attention. So the second time, I find them funny, and I probably will laugh because I can like relax a little bit and just like watch the movie. But so, like, the first time I'm like, especially with this movie, because it is just a little bit more complicated than your average movie, and it's hard to describe. So I was like, I gotta be paying attention. So if somebody made like a goof, it was just going over my head.
There's something, I'm trying to put into words why I like this movie so much. Because normally I hate...
Is it how hairy Nicolas Cage is?
Normally I hate, like, winking meta, like, self-referential stuff. And more than that, I hate when movies sort of point out their own flaws in order to sort of mask that they exist, you know? As if to, like, tell the viewer, like, oh, we know, and so we're pointing it out, so that makes it not a flaw anymore.
That makes it okay.
Yeah, which is, like, my least favorite thing, and I'm always annoyed by, like, self-referential meta stuff. And those two things are, like, 100% of what this movie is. And I like it so much, and I don't know why none of that stuff bugs me in this.
I honestly think it comes from the fact that the protagonist is a little bit of a I almost said sad ass. It's a little bit of a sad sack.
Right.
Because it's such a sad ass.
Sad ass.
Because I feel, I feel like a lot of those characters that are like winking and like breaking the fourth wall and that kind of thing are all kind of like,
Snarky.
well, they're snarky. A lot of times the joke is the fact that they're an asshole, and it's like, oh, look, they're such an asshole. You know, like that's always like a part of it, and it's annoying sometimes. Are you okay?
I'm joking. I'm good.
I'm gonna watch it happen on the stream.
I've just got. I've got rum and Dr. Pepper in my lungs. Okay. I'm sorry.
Are you dying?
I'm sorry.
Jesus.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I'm sorry.
What were you saying about
Well, it was
the characters are always assholes.
Yeah, the characters that like break the fourth wall like that are usually like a part of it is that they're like annoying and they're like assholes or they're
Right.
like confident or whatever, and it's annoying. It's just annoying. So like when you have a character who like kind of is like literally the opposite of that, and he's the one who's like it's meta, but also the character hates that it's meta,
Right.
which is even more meta. You know?
Right,
like,
yeah.
When he does those things where he's like basically he's writing out the script of the movie as it's happening.
Uh-huh.
And I think that kind of fourth wall winking makes more sense in this movie because it's basically a part of the plot because he's a screenwriter and he's writing the screenplay for the movie. So when there are voiceovers and when there is that like breaking of the fourth wall, it like makes sense, and the joke isn't that it doesn't make sense, you know?
Right.
Like when he's like describing what's happening or he's describing his emotions, it's because he's writing the screenplay. And then he kind of admits that that's a bad way to write a screenplay, you know? Like, it's meta humor, but, like, the way that meta humor, like, actually should be, where it's, like, making fun of the craft instead of just looking at the audience, you know?
Being like, you know that.
I feel like we've just, like, we've broken down meta humor into literally, like, just talking and looking at the audience.
Right.
But that's not what meta humor is. Meta humor is, like, making jokes about the craft and the medium and the thing that you're doing in general.
Right.
And so it's, like, I do think a lot of people do meta jokes correctly, but then you, like, not every meta joke is just Deadpool, you know? Like, it's more than just like, oh, I'm acknowledging the fact that this is a TV show or a film or a book or whatever, but it's like actually making a joke about how you would write a screenplay and how he would actually think about writing a screenplay. Like, it's actually meta in that way.
Yeah, no, and I think part of it is, like, a lot of what annoys me about meta humor is that in a certain way, it's almost like it's, you know, it's either, like, the characters sort of, like, talking down to you as an audience member, like, I bet you fucking thought I wouldn't do that, or I bet you thought it was going to be like this, but actually it's going to be like this, fuck you. Or, like...
I'm turning around tropes into something different, but in doing that, it's really just another trope.
Yeah, and, like, the way that sort of... This movie, it is... It's sort of, it's meta in a, I mean, like you said, in sort of a sad way. Like, instead of being like, ha ha, I'm gonna talk to you in the audience, it's like, the character's like, it's pretty meta, I fucking hate that. And, like, something about that is much more palatable than, like...
this movie sucks, I fucking hate it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's something, there's something so surreal about, like, that sequence where Nicolas Cage is like, and so we start at the beginning of time, like, life, and, you know, he's, like, just talking into his tape recorder, he's describing a scene that has already happened in the movie. And,
that we've already seen.
Yeah, and he's, like, really excited, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is where he came up with that thing that I liked when they did it earlier. And then it cuts to him a second later where he's, like, listening back to it, and he's like, fuck, this is so fucking stupid. And you're like... Wait, no, I liked that when that happened, though. Like, there's something sort of, like, it makes you sort of... It makes you, like, directly engage with the meta-ness of it, I guess. I don't know, it's weird to describe, but, like...
Yeah.
And, like, I like the whole thing where, like, you know, he's sort of like spinning himself out into like multiple personalities, and then his twin brother comes
Oh
in
yeah.
talking about how he wants to make a screenplay about multiple personalities, and Charlie Kaufman's like, "That's so fucking stupid. Please don't do that."
Yeah.
Like,
I really thought the twist of the movie was going to be that the brother never existed. I really thought that was going to be
right,
a
yeah.
twist.
But it's just
Because
like,
they basically talk about like horror movie tropes and how stuff like that is so stupid. And I was like, oh, the brother isn't real, is he?
right. And I mean, you know, the brother isn't real in a metatextual
But yeah,
way.
but
But like, yeah, it's so
in the story, he's real.
right. And I think, and also, I checked the chat on my phone. Vi, sorry we didn't get you on this
Yeah.
podcast episode. I was saying it earlier. We didn't like
Yeah.
decide we were gonna do this until like a couple of days ago. And when you acted excited when I said we were doing it a few minutes ago, I like had a realization in that moment. I was like, oh, we should have asked Vi to be on this one, but we didn't plan ahead or make that happen.
If you have a thought and you just want to barge in behind Jackson, that's totally
on,
okay.
about adaptation, you may. I'm sorry for not letting you in on adaptation talk because I know you love this movie. Okay. Looking at my notes, I like. Hold on one mo. I just reorganized my home screen, so I don't know where anything is anymore. I'm still getting used to how it's laid out. Because I got fucking widgets now, bitch. Have you gotten the new iOS?
I need to update my phone.
It's cool.
I never fucking update my phone because freaking, I don't know, it takes like, I'm always like, oh, I'll update my phone. It's like, you want 5 minutes? And I'm like, I'm using my phone now though, which is why you told me to update it. So I'm like, no, I'll do it later. And then it's like 12 months later. And I'm like, okay, I'll update my phone. Stop drinking.
I'm literally choking again.
Stop.
Okay. That one wasn't as bad though. I'm okay.
God.
Okay. Looking at my notes. And there is something kind of cool about the fact that within this whole weird clusterfuck of a movie, there is like just sort of a straightforward adaptation of the book within it in a weird sort of way. Like, there's a solid like 40 minutes or so, like in the first 2 acts of this movie, that are just him like outlining the book, like where it's Meryl Streep and Chris Cooper just like hanging out and being like, oh, you know, I'm learning about this whole thing, and here's what this flower is, and here's like my sort of philosophical musings about what that's like and how this all goes. That's like what the book is. It's a nonfiction book. And it's like, it's so weird in the sense that it's like, this was meant to be just a straightforward adaptation of this book, and he managed to like get that in there, even with like all this other weird stuff.
Yeah. Well, like, I do like the two, like, plots happening side by side, because as soon as I figured it out, I could, like, separate the two, and I was totally fine, as long as Olive Garden didn't interrupt what we were doing. But I really like the parallels of the car crashes. I think it's really interesting, because you have the Meryl Streep and Guy have that conversation where he's like, my wife divorced me after she basically almost died. I was in a coma for a month. And Meryl Streep's like, oh, well, can you blame her? I mean, like, I think she's like, if I almost died, I would do such and such. And she's like, because it feels like the perfect excuse to do anything, really. And he's like, well, no, not really. But then you have the car crash with Nicolas Cage, and his brother dies, and he totally turns his life around because it's the perfect excuse to turn his life around.
Yeah.
Just parallels.
So good. And it's like, and everything that happens in that third act is so like sort of cheesy and tight, and like wraps it all up in a nice little bow, where like the first 2 acts are sort of like squiggly and messy and like don't really tend to have a lot of a like specific direction where it's going in. It just speaks to the fact that like in the movie, like they're able to use that sort of like cinematic first 2 acts and still have it pay off in a supremely cinematic way in the third act, if that makes sense. Like there's something so cool about that. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool that like first of all, it's funny that like the 4 different women that Charlie Kaufman is like attracted to in this movie all sort of have like a similar kind of look, you know? Like Tilda Swinton and Judy Greer and Meryl Streep and Maggie Gyllenhaal, like all kind of look the same in a certain kind of way. There's something kind
Yeah,
of
he's
funny
got a
about
type.
that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like he has a type that I think is kind of funny. Also, I
Yeah.
just appreciate that this movie's like, yeah, Judy Greer's fucking hot, and I'm like, yeah, she is. We
Yeah.
don't let Judy Greer just be fucking hot
Yes.
enough. Um,
Yeah.
and same thing with Tilda Swinton too. Like this is one of the only movies I've ever seen where like Tilda Swinton is just like a pretty lady. Like usually she's playing some
Yeah.
weird surreal monster woman
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. I was about to say, what I really think, when I was like feeling uncomfortable with the way that this guy like dealt with like women in his fantasies and stuff, what like made it not an incel was the fact that like he seemed to have a healthy understanding of
Yeah.
the reality if that makes any sense. And there's all that like a whole like that woman's really pretty. That woman's really pretty in a different way. That woman looks like she's super smart and wants to do a crossword puzzle. Like he
Right.
he fantasizes them in a way that like it's just like he's just fantasizing about relationships. I don't know. Like
Right.
he's not being unrealistic and gross about the women themselves because these are just like
People he
regular
knows.
pretty women,
Yeah.
you know, like they're not supermodels and they're not these weird sexualized versions of women. They're real
Right.
women that he
That's
has,
why I sort of bristle at that.
is
is
attracted
because
to, and that's fine. Yeah,
I feel weird about saying that like there's something right or wrong about like seeing something that attracts you in your everyday and like thinking about it later. I don't want to like impose morality on just the act of
yeah,
like masturbation because I think that feels backwards and like unhealthy to me.
weird. Yeah.
But I mean, not that you're completely wrong. That's just my immediate impulse.
Well,
To
it's
say,
the fact that masturbation fantasy doesn't affect the way that he interacts with women, basically,
Right,
is what
yeah.
it is. Is that they're two separate things. He has a fantasy about a woman, and then he talks to women like they're people and respects
Yeah.
them in a reasonable way. You know, like he separates the two, which is what you should do in a healthy way when you do
Right,
that, you
yeah.
know?
Anyway, Judy Greer, very hot. I'm looking
hot.
at. Oh, and there's a moment where they're
the
talking
one
about. Oh, go ahead.
Who's the one that plays the waitress lady?
That's Judy Greer.
Yeah, Jigger, she's pretty.
Because she's a comedian. She's what's her name in Arrested Development, Kitty in Arrested Development. And
Yeah.
she's on. Like, she's just sort of a comedian lady who does, like, a lot of bit parts on TV. She's, like, She, like, has started playing, like, moms in blockbusters a lot lately. She's the ex-wife in
where it's
Ant-Man.
yeah.
Not that she's ever been, like, like an ugly woman, but, like, she never, like, gets to be, like,
Yeah.
pretty, and like
Yeah.
and like this movie's like Judy Greer's super hot, and I'm like, yeah, thank
she's
you,
pretty.
she is.
Thank you. She
Anyway.
is.
She's also Caesar's wife in Planet of the Apes for reasons that are still confusing to me.
Yeah.
But not that she's not good. It's
Does
just
she
like
do
a weird...
anything in that movie?
No, not at
but
all. It's like
fine.
weird that they like cast a name in that role. Weird that the name they cast was Judy Greer, and weird that she's pretty good at
Yeah.
it. So it's like I don't know. The whole thing's weird, but I'm not mad about
It's all weird.
it.
Does that character do anything other than have babies and die?
No.
but it's fine
the,
anyway.
There's a moment where Chris Cooper is talking about adaptation in like the evolutionary sense, how like organisms adapt to their surroundings, and I was like, "Fuck, this is the best movie ever," which is like the weird sort of like ultra tidy, like clever quote unquote script writing I usually don't like, but for some reason it totally works on me in this movie, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, I was about to say that line at the ending that they kind of ham up for like final lines of like movie kind of hype up. I am what I love, not what loves me. I'm like, oh,
Right.
that's really good though.
It's good. It's good.
Like
And
you
that's the
totally
thing.
just said it because you knew that I would like it, but like it's
Right.
good though.
That's part of the thesis of this movie is that like there's nothing wrong with making things
Yeah.
that people like, you know? Like just because
Yeah, exactly.
not that there's no
yeah.
place for things that are realistic or whatever, but it's like there's not something inherently
Yeah.
wrong with like enjoying things and loving things and not being ashamed of
Yeah.
like what you love. Sort of like when Donald is talking about that girl who was like making fun of him behind his back.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he was like, I don't really care because I still liked her. I thought she was pretty and I was attracted to her, and like that is sort of what it's like to like a Marvel movie, you know? Like people can
Yeah.
make fun of you all they want for it, but like in, you know, maybe for some people you
But
would
I
be like,
still like it.
I don't like it
yeah.
anymore cuz people made fun of me about it. But it's like you can just be like, yeah, it's okay. Like I still like it. I still like the Winter Soldier. It's
Yeah.
fucking good. Winter Soldier's very pretty
I
in
always
high
kinda
school.
give you love Winter Soldier. You love Winter Soldier so much. But like I always kind of give the side eye to people who are like, "Oh, I loved this thing, but then the fandom ruined it." Cuz like that's not how that works. And I don't think you liked it that much if it can be like ruined for you, you know?
Right.
Like don't get me wrong, people are awful and horrible online
Uh-huh.
in many different ways, but like if like kids being cringy about a thing that you liked ruins that thing, I don't think you really liked that thing that much, you know? Like if that makes you mad and that's what ruins it, I don't think you liked that thing as much as you thought that you liked it, you know?
Here's what I will say. I will say that I
Yes.
think with certain sort of things, especially in like an internet era and especially with very like populist media, there is a certain social aspect to enjoying it. You know?
Yeah,
And
no, that's
sometimes
totally
when
fair.
you try to engage in that social aspect and you just come away feeling unhappy, it sort of doesn't make you want to do that anymore. You know? And not that I'm saying
No,
that
I
like
think
that's the only way you should enjoy things, but I think there is a validity to that,
Yeah.
you know?
yeah, no, I think the social aspect of it can totally be ruined for you. I think that's absolutely a thing. But to be like, Undertale sucks because
Well, right.
kids are annoying, just like that's not.
Right.
You just thought you were because you liked Undertale, you know?
Right. I started reading
Like,
Homestuck
that-
a little while ago. Just because I was curious about it.
Yeah, I've tried to read Homestuck before.
It's because I read
Yeah.
it when I was like a sophomore in high school. I didn't like read it all the way through. I was dating a girl who was really into Homestuck, and I wanted her to like me, so I read a lot of it. Which
Yeah,
is to
because
say
it-
that I wasn't like super engaging with it. I was kind of just like wolfing through it as fast as I could to like get through as much of it as I could, so I could kind of know what she was talking about and that she
Yeah.
would like me.
Talk to her about it, yeah.
But like it was just one of those weird things that like I had a lot of weird pent up emotions about, like Doctor Who, like from middle school, where I was like weirdly angry about it for so long, and like just sort of trying to like go back and like purge myself of all that weird baggage I had of it. And you know what? Homestuck's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like Homestuck so far. The only thing
Yeah.
about it is that
No,
like
my problem with
it's so convoluted. Like by design, it's
Oh, yeah.
stupendously
Yeah.
convoluted, and that's sort of the appeal of it, right? Is that it's like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
part
yeah,
of it is that it's like sort of parodying like super obtuse like MMORPG mechanics, where there's like a bazillion different currencies and a million different storylines. So there is sort of a winking element to the fact that it is so convoluted. But even still, like, even in spite of that, you can
it's still convoluted.
get pretty
yeah.
exhausted by it sometimes. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like, even now,
happens-
like, 15 or whatever, not 15 years, but almost 10 years later, like, it's still really
7,
funny.
yeah.
Like, I laugh at a lot of the jokes in it. Like, I
Yeah.
find it to genuinely be really funny still, which I was not expecting.
Well, this happens literally all the time where someone will go to make fun of something and then unintentionally just like totally become the thing that they're making fun of. It's like,
Right.
oh, we're making fun of how convoluted this is. by being convoluted, so now it's just convoluted.
Right.
But we're still making fun of it though. Still, anyway, it's like you're right, but you're wrong at the same
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried to read Homestuck a couple times, and what turns me off about it is, I guess it's not really a turn off. It's just more of like a willpower thing. Is that it's one of those things that like definitely gets better as it goes along, but like the what like the I've seen art, like the official art of Homestuck, and like I really enjoy like the style and like what they're doing and their character designs and stuff. But like the first of all, it's long as balls.
Yeah.
There's like 8 acts, and the art doesn't get good till like the 5th act. So I'll get like a quarter of the way through the first act and be like, "Hey, this is ugly as sin, and I'm tired of looking at it." And
I don't
then
know.
I stop reading it, and I know that it gets better, and I
Right.
know that because it's a webcomic, so the artist evolves as the
Right.
comic goes on, which is cool,
Mhm.
and I'm sure it's a very fun thing to experience. But I can never like I get bored of it, and I can't push
Right.
myself to get to like the part where it gets good, quote
Right.
unquote.
I'm one of the things about Homestuck is I feel like it's always been like really overhyped how long it is. I mean, I don't know. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but like each little like
Yeah.
each little page of it, which is, you know, sometimes a few paragraphs of text in those like chat logs, and sometimes is literally just a picture, and then you
Yeah.
go to the next one is the next page.
Yeah.
And so like right now I've been reading it for like a few minutes a night for the last like 2 or 3 weeks or so. And I'm like 1,500 pages in, and I looked up like the total amount of pages, like, because people always say like it's the longest ever thing in history, but like I don't know what rubric they're judging that by, because apparently the total page count is like 8,000 pages, which doesn't seem that super long to me, especially considering a lot of them do not include any actual words, you know? And maybe once I get into the later part of it, those chat logs are going to get really long, and I'm going to be like, oh, this is
Real
super long.
yeah.
But as of right now, I'm skeptical that it's actually as long as people hype it up to be.
Written thing right now still that Super Smash Brothers fanfiction?
I don't know, maybe.
Is that still a thing?
I'm gonna take a second.
I love that.
I'm gonna take a second and do some research. I'm gonna Google
It might
Homestuck
just be the longest fanfiction ever written.
longest work of fiction. Okay, so on Reddit, this person says that Homestuck has 800,000 and some odd words. Which I guess, I don't know, for some reason it just seems like... Oh, okay. So this person says it has 800,000 words, which is just over 100,000 more than the King James Bible. And if it were a published book, it would be the 5th longest novel in the English language. That I believe.
Yes.
Because, like, the longest novel is still not as long as, like, a serialized something, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah. Now I have figured it out. Okay, so now I'm gonna see if that Super
makes
Smash
sense.
Brothers fanfiction
Yeah.
is still...
I know. I really hope that it is. I don't know if it's good. I just really like the idea that the longest thing ever written is a Super
Right.
Smash Brothers fanfiction. It is so windy where I am right now.
Yeah, it is. Subspace Emissary
It is,
World's
hell yeah.
Conquest has 4,100,000 words.
Ah, hell yeah, dude.
And, you know, I'm sure that very few of them are any good. But, you know what?
Oh, I'm sure
Worth-
it's not good.
Yeah.
But that's not the point.
Maybe we should start reading it. Maybe we should do a book club on this podcast
Oh my
where we
God.
read the longest ever work of fiction in history.
This is on topic. I recently started going back and watching My Little Pony because it was Friendship is Magic, because it was like a huge thing for me in middle school and my
Right.
friend group, and it was just like something we loved and loved and loved. But then when I go into high school, I just like stopped watching it, and then it got into like its 10th season and ended recently. So I was like,
Did
I
it?
should go back and like watch all of My Little Pony, because it was something that like younger me really loved. It would be nice to like go back and watch that. But like even that is taking a while, and I don't know if I go that times like a billion for
Right.
the Subspace Emissary
Right.
fanfiction.
Do you want to check on the chat, see if anybody's saying anything fun about Homestuck?
Kate is talking about that fanfiction, and she
Oh,
says,
okay.
and they say, yeah, it is like the longest thing, and they're like, what if I just wrote out every single interaction of like if any of the Super Smash People characters like actually met, which is fun. I like that.
Right.
I think Link and Mario would have some things to talk about. I think that'd be an enjoyable time.
And I think it's interesting to think about like what constitutes like a singular work of fiction, and also what sort of counts in this system. Because I think like there are hour-long podcasts that have been running for 10 years. If I transcribed every episode of Jordan Jesse Go, starting all the way from like
Yeah.
2008 or whatever, like to the present day, that would probably be way more than 4 million words. But I guess that's not a work of fiction, though. I guess that would be nonfiction.
No.
Um,
It should be with all the fucking lies that they spew.
okay. Although there must be... I wonder if there is like an improv, if there's like a long-running improv podcast that we could mine and call the longest work of fiction,
or
technically.
Like, even like the Adventure Zone, like if you wrote down like just in like their first like arc, freaking Critical Role.
Yeah,
has
maybe.
like 5-hour episodes, and their second season they're like on a episode like 112 or something.
Right.
Like I feel like that would probably be the longest one.
Yeah, like if you transcribed all of that out.
Yeah, especially with like characters and yeah, that'd be a lot. Oh my god. I keep trying to catch up on Critical Role, and the fact that each episode is like 5 hours long just like gets me.
Yeah, no, that
like,
is a complete barrier. I've never had any interest in it because of that.
Well, because I love, honestly, like, I've just, like, gone to, like, getting the story out of, like, fan art on Pinterest and cosplayers on TikTok. Because, like, they just get all the good, juicy story stuff. And I know I'm missing a lot, but, like, I love the characters and I love what's going on. But, like, I will personally play D&D for, like, hours. I love playing D&D. It doesn't feel like a huge chunk of time when I just, like, sit down and play D&D for, like, 7 hours. Like, I could totally do that, like, 12 hours. Not a problem.
Right.
But listening to somebody play D&D for 5 hours, totally different thing. And especially when it's like plot heavy and I can't check out during it.
Right, yeah.
It's a lot. Because like when you're playing D&D, there are times like when your character isn't doing something where you, unless you're DMing, of course, where you can like check out for a little bit. Like mentally,
right.
And then come back in.
Yeah,
you can't do that when you're listening.
Right, yeah.
That's not an option.
Okay, so adaptation.
Oh yeah, Cade says the Magnus Archives too. Like any podcast, like fictional thing. Like Welcome to Night Vale is pretty long.
I don't think that would be quite as long. And the Magnus Archives hasn't been going that long, has it? Those are short episodes, and I think they only have like a couple hundred.
Kate said 180.
Yeah, I mean, and they're like 20-minute episodes, right? I don't think that would be more than 4 million words.
Yeah. Well, what if they just keep going for like 20 years?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, if they kept going for another 10 years, maybe it would be, but...
yeah. I was about to say, I would love to do some sort of like narrative podcast. I would love to do a D&D podcast. Like, I would genuinely love that. I would absolutely end it down to like an hour because like the Adventure Zone, I can totally watch the Adventure Zone. I love the Adventure Zone. Critical Role, I love it. I can't watch it. I don't have the mental capacity to watch 5 hours of somebody else playing D&D.
I mean, maybe there's a world where we could set up a D&D thing. Maybe that could be fun.
I would love that. Yeah. I would love that so much.
You would have to kind of take point on that though, because I would have minimal.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
Interest, but whatever.
Yeah, dude, if like yeah, dog, I would totally do a D&D podcast.
Okay.
I know there's like 12 billion D&D podcasts, but like they're fun and I like them.
Okay, so adaptation. I noticed when I was looking at the Wikipedia page, there was a little thing that said that. Hold on, let me look exactly. So the I should have written down like the name of the organization, but it was the like Hollywood Visual Effects Society or whatever. This movie won an award, or Nicolas Cage won an award for best performance by an actor in an effects film, which I think is a super fucking cool category that should be more mainstream. Like people whose performances are deeply affected by like visual effects work, you know, like whether that's I'm trying to think of a good example, like Seth Rogen in American Pickle, or
Well,
like Andy
what's
Serkis in anything, or like, you know, something.
in anything ever? What's his face in Roger Rabbit? The main
Yeah,
guy from
Bob
Roger
Hoskins
Rabbit.
in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like anything where like so much of
Yeah.
your performance is built around
God.
the visual effects involved.
Roger Rabbit is so fucking good.
Yeah,
man.
Roger Rabbit's
I
the
love
best
Roger
movie
Rabbit
ever.
So much.
I also watched
It's the best movie ever made.
so fucking Robert Zemeckis. I just watched Back to the Future the other night, which is also a goddamn
Yeah.
perfect movie. Like Robert Zemeckis made
Yeah, Back to the Future is fucking great.
Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit within like a year of each other. And those are like literally
Yeah.
two of the best movies in history. Like how do you do that?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. God, I want to watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit now. Is it still on Netflix? I guess it would be
It's
on
on
Disney
Disney Plus,
I would
yeah.
fucking destroy Who Framed Roger Rabbit now.
I'm looking at my notes. I love fucking Donald's like cop movie pitch so much. I think it's so funny, where he's constantly just like, okay, so
Wait, hold on.
what?
Kate just brought up Parent Trap.
as one of
Lindsay
the best
Lohan
movies
talking
of.
to herself.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I don't know.
No, for the... no, on the same level as Who Framed
It's
Roger Rabbit.
I mean, yeah, no, maybe I haven't seen Parent Trap, but if
Somebody
Lindsay
made
Lohan
me-
is good in it, maybe she would be up for that
Somebody made
award.
me watch Parent Trap. Somebody made me watch that recently. And I gotta tell you, I didn't like it, because it felt like they weren't respecting their parents' decisions, like, at all.
Right.
Because here's the thing about the Parent Trap.
Kids
is that
rule,
it's these
adults
twin
drool.
Sisters. Well, yeah, it's like their parents get divorced when they're babies, and each kid gets the custody, and they don't know about the other one. Which is fucked up, don't get me wrong. It's
Right.
not how you should handle that situation. But they're like, oh, we're friends because we met at summer camp. After being total bitches to each other, we're now friends at summer camp. We should try to get our parents back together, and I'll pretend to be you, and you'll pretend to be me. And, like, without learning about the situation at all, of, like, why they got divorced, they're
Right.
just like, oh, you guys should get back together. And it's like that. Maybe your mother and father are much happier now that
Right.
they're divorced. Like,
Isn't it also like a
if
2.5
you
hour
wanna
movie?
be like, hey, it's pretty long. But, like, if you just, like, wanted to be like, hey, mom, hey, dad, it's really fucked up that you didn't tell me that I had a twin sister, and I want her to be in my life now.
Right.
I'd be like, yeah, you absolutely have the right to be like that. I'd be like, hey, mom and dad, I have no idea why you got divorced, but I think you should get back together. It's just like, I don't like that.
Okay, anyway, Donald's like
Anyway.
cop movie pitch is so funny to me because he's constantly just like butting into
Yeah.
the story and just being like, okay, so I wrote in like a chase scene where it's like the good guy's on a horse but the bad guy's in a car, and it's like technology
That one's really good.
versus horse, which is like
Horse.
the funniest thing I've ever heard. And
It's
like
really good.
just at the beginning where he was like, the killer has multiple personality syndrome, but the cop and the killer are actually the same person. And Charlie Kaufman's just like, oh my fucking god. Like, there's something so funny about
Have you
it.
seen the imagery of shattered mirrors
To-
to mirror how his mind is fragmented? And it's like, wow.
It's like, God, it's so funny. And then he's like successful,
It's
and
just
everyone's
so
just like,
spot
I would
on.
probably
and then
see that.
everybody loves it.
Yeah, because it's like, if I watched that movie, I'd probably walk out of it being like, hell yeah. Like, I'd probably
Yeah.
like it.
And then I see the broken mirror, and I'm like, oh, just like
I
a
get
second.
it. Yeah.
I get it.
And it's like, it's kind of holding up the
Yeah.
mirror to you, you know? I don't know, I just think it's funny. Like, it's so perfect.
Is it broken?
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like absolutely. Well, because I love at the beginning of this movie, basically we see the twin brothers, like his whole career as a screenwriter is basically this movie, where it's like the
Right.
first time we see him, he's like, I think I want to be a screenwriter. And his
Right.
brother's like, fucking don't, because
Right.
it sucks and I hate it. And then
Right.
at the end, he's like super successful. I just think it's funny that
Yeah.
it's like, he's like his first shitty idea is just amazing.
Right. And it's sort of, it speaks to the whole, like, self-loathing thing where he's almost, like, beating himself up, being like, if I could just write
Yeah.
a fucking story about a cop or whatever, like, I could
Yeah, if I just didn't care,
Right, yeah.
I could make crap and it would be fine.
Like,
And people would love it, you know.
I got lucky and I wrote this fucking weird-ass banana script about John Malkovich, and I, like, got my foot in the door in Hollywood. So now, if I could just fucking write a movie about, like, a tough cop who has to, like, beat the odds right before retirement and just, like, you know, invest in it and, like, make it good,
sidekick.
you know, like, I could make bank. I could be successful, and then maybe I could do whatever I wanted, but, like, if I could just, like, not give so much of a fuck, I would be fine, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think is, like, really interesting and cool.
Oh, yeah.
And, like... Oh, and one of the things... Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've had that thought so many times in my life. Not necessarily usually about art, but just about life in general. Just like, man, if I didn't give a fuck, life would be so much easier. But, like, that's not... point of the movie is that, like, that's not the way to go. The point is to give a fuck about things that it's hard to give a fuck about.
Right. And, like... And I feel like there's sort of a weird balance there, because on the one hand, it's not like... oh, I should just not give a fuck and fucking shit out a Hollywood piece of nonsense or whatever. It's
because
more
the
like...
masses are idiots.
Yeah, it feels, like, weirdly reverential of, like, that whole sort of process in a weird sort of way. And he goes to that seminar and he learns about, like, why that stuff works. And, like, the moral of the story isn't that, like, that stuff sucks. The moral of the story is, like, it's okay if I want to do that. Like, that stuff is cool. And I should let myself do it, because there's nothing wrong with it, you know? And, like, that's sort of what he learns at the end, because he, like, writes in a fucking car chase and a guy getting eaten by an alligator, and he's like, hell yeah, this stuff's cool. Yeah, it's,
but I love
it's a fucking
when
cool
the
movie.
brother is talking about this seminar. It's a good movie when he's talking about the seminar, and he's like, it's not a scam because this guy isn't talking about rules. Like, rules are something that you have to do. He's talking about principles, or principles are just things that have been proven to work over and over and over again.
Right.
These principles are effective. So when he, like, basically listens to that advice and starts using those principles that have been proven to work, and then they do work in the story and in the movie, it's like, oh, good.
Yeah.
It's good and I like it.
So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to add.
If you choke on fucking
No.
Dr. Pepper one more time,
I'm done with my
reach
drink.
my hand through the screen and strangle you.
We're at, like...
I'm done. I finished my drink.
I'm done.
Exactly what you said.
We're done. We're done with the movie. Like, we've been going for, like, an hour and plus.
I'm done with the movie.
Like, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to say at the last second. Like, Charlie Kaufman is a weird career because he's managed to, like, make a name for himself, like, exclusively writing fucking weird-ass movies, you know? Like, pretty much every... Like, even writers with the most distinct voices every once in a while have, like, a few things where they're just like, yeah, I wrote a fucking... Like, the Coen brothers wrote Intolerable Cruelty, which is just like, what if George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones fell in love? And it's, like, still kind of a Coen brothers movie, but you're like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, get to the bag, Coen brothers. It's fine.
Yeah.
But, like, Charlie Kaufman's filmography is literally, like, he does Being John Malkovich, and then he follows it up with Adaptation. And then he wrote this weird-ass movie called Human Instinct, which I haven't seen and I don't know a lot about, but apparently it's, like, not super good. But it's just, like, this weird movie about, like... Or no, it's not called Human Instinct. What's it called? 1 second. Human Nature. Um, Human Nature follows the ups and downs of an obsessive scientist, a female naturalist, and the man they discover, born and raised in the wild. As scientist, Nathan trains the wild man in the ways of the world, starting with table manners. Nathan's lover, Lila, fights to preserve the man's simian past, which represents a freedom enviable to most. So it's like they find like a feral
They're
wild
fighting
man,
over
and they're
how
like,
to-
yeah, fighting over how to raise him. Um,
Which is interesting.
Yeah,
I
which is
get
interesting.
it.
I've heard it's not that good though, but whatever. And then he
Yeah.
starts, or no, I guess he does have. He has a movie called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, that was directed by George Clooney, which
Oh.
I haven't seen it, but maybe that's his one, like straight down the middle.
Movie.
Yeah. Television made him
movie.
famous, but his biggest hits happened off screen. Television producer by day, CIA assassin by night, Chuck Barris was recruited by the CIA at the height of his TV career and trained to become a covert operative. So yeah, that kind of sounds like a paycheck gig. That sounds like fucking Donald's cop script in this movie.
Yeah.
Which honestly, good for him. Like, I'm glad he did that. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like, I don't know when this came about, but I feel like it's solely gone in that style. Of like, I think it honestly came out of the 90s when their like paid sponsorships were like really becoming a thing, where people are like, oh, you fucking sold out, dude. Like, oh, it's ruined because you're fucking making money. Like, it loses something because you're like
Right.
making money off of it. Like, it's not genuine anymore.
Uh-huh.
And like, that's just so fucking stupid. Like, I get, like, on some level, like, compromising your own art in order to make a profit
Right.
is one thing. And then getting a sponsorship so that you can live and also make more art
Right.
is not bad in any way, and I don't think we should be shaming artists
Right.
getting livable wages, whatever way that means.
Right. So anyway, after that, or no, and he does Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind after Human Nature. And, you know, he's not directing any of these movies. He's just a writer. But this is when he starts
just a
directing, and he does
Just a writer,
Synecdoche,
yeah.
New York, which is this weird existential, like, surreal-ass movie about Philip Seymour Hoffman, like, doing this weird
It's a
performance.
surreal ass movie.
Yeah, he's doing this weird performance art where he basically, like, recreates the town of Synecdoche, New York, like, full-size, like, somewhere else, and, like, pays actors. It's, like, this weird, like, commentary on, like, expression and, like, filling the void and, like,
Yeah.
screaming into nothingness and wanting to be seen or whatever. And then he does Anomalisa, which is, he directs this one, too, which is, like, a weird, like, stop-motion puppety movie about, like, an old Chinese man having an existential crisis. And
That's fine.
then his next movie is I'm Thinking of Ending Things on Netflix that came out this month. Which is like this totally non-literal weird movie about like relationships, and like he's just had this weird career where he's like somehow gotten away with like basically only writing whatever the fuck he feels
Doing weird
like.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, like, as soon as you get a niche for yourself, like, you just have to do something fucking wild good once, and then nobody's gonna stop
Right.
you from doing weird shit for the rest of forever. Like,
Right.
you become the weird shit guy. It's like, this is bad, and I think it won't work. Oh, but that guy's doing it, and he does the weird shit, so that is so fine. Here's $1 million.
Right. Okay. I have a super tangent I want to go on. The next movie that Charlie Kaufman is writing, he's not directing this one, but he's writing it, is Chaos Walking, which is this one of those weird movies that people like to joke is never going to come out because it's had this super weird troubled production. But it's this adaptation of this weird sci-fi book, and Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley are going to be like the two leads. And it's directed by Doug Liman, is the guy who did like Edge of Tomorrow and the first Born Identity movie, who's like this huge action director who works with Tom Cruise a lot. But Doug Liman has like 4 different movies that he's working on supposedly working on right now that are set to come out like in the next 2 to 3 years, and I just don't buy it because he's got
Yeah.
an adaptation of Cannonball, or excuse me, uh, he's doing a remake of Cannonball Run. He's doing Chaos Walking. He's doing a sequel to Edge of Tomorrow. And have you heard about the movie that just got like officially greenlit, where Paramount is going to team up with SpaceX and send Tom Cruise literally to space to make an action movie literally in space?
That fucking rules.
Yeah, I'm so pumped about it. But Doug Leaving's set up to direct that one too. So like,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah, like I don't know
was
how
his
many of these
priority.
movies are actually going to happen. Anyway, but I'm
Yes.
so fucking pumped to literally send Tom Cruise into
Tom
space.
Cruise is just gonna fucking fall out of orbit, and we're gonna film it live. And that's just gonna be the whole movie.
Like, I don't know what that movie's gonna be, but it's gonna fucking kick ass.
Yeah, it's gonna be balls to the wall, just fucking crazy.
Yeah. Like, Tom Cruise is in this place right now where it seems like he knows he's got, like, maybe, like, 3 or 4 years left of, like, doing big action movies
Yeah,
again.
he's jumping the shark.
And
now.
he's just like, I'm gonna go fucking insane. Like, have you seen the set photos
I'm gonna
that have
go
been
to
coming
space.
out for Mission Impossible 7?
No.
Like,
Is
literally...
he just like setting himself on fire?
No, literally. It was like on Chris McQuarrie's Instagram. It was like day 1 of production on Mission Impossible 7. Good luck to us. And it's this picture of this huge fucking motorcycle ramp literally just going off of a giant cliff in Scotland. And you're like, what is this? Like, how?
At what point does it become like? At what point do we need to like sit Tom Cruise down and be
Yeah.
like, "This is suicide by motorcycle ramp"? And
Yeah.
you gotta stop. Suicide by Fallout 5 or whatever.
And for a long
Fallout,
time,
Mission
he was
Impossible.
like really trying to like be the Green Lantern in like in a Green Lantern movie, which is super
Yeah.
weird because he's like almost 60 and he's like, I need an action franchise right now. I need to start an action
Yeah.
franchise immediately. It's like,
Well,
you
because
can't
I
do
don't
that.
think he knows who he is without one.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
I
like,
don't
I'm
know.
getting to the end of my rope. I need a franchise now. I need a Robert Downey Jr. myself, where I'm
Right.
old, but I'm the character now, so
Yeah.
you can't get rid of me until I'm done.
But yeah, and that's the thing is that at least before coronavirus, the plan was that they were going to shoot Mission Impossible 7 and 8 like simultaneously, like all at once. Presumably with the intent of let's get as many Mission Impossible movies together as we can before Tom Cruise gets too old to do them anymore.
Before Tom Cruise dies in space.
Yeah, exactly. Before he dies making his fucking space movie with Elon Musk.
Could you imagine if Tom Cruise died in space?
It was Elon Musk's fault.
Oh my fucking... I hope that's... This is a terrible thing to say, but I hope that's this timeline, because god damn it. That's so fucking funny.
Imagine seeing a headline that was just
Elon
like...
Cruise kills Tom Cruise in space.
Imagine seeing the headline that's just like, tragic news this morning. Tom Cruise, while in an astronaut suit, broke free of his tether and drifted into space. Never to be seen again. Like, just full on got gravitied.
Yeah.
And never returned.
It's like... Yeah. It's fucking... They're filming a movie. So it's like, it's not gonna be the same as like being an astronaut. They're gonna be like doing things.
Yeah.
Or else it's gonna be like a boring movie. So they're gonna be taking stupid risks like that because they're filming a movie. And Tom Cruise is just gonna fucking go into space and we're never gonna see him again.
I swear to God, he has whatever
It's gonna
disease
be
the Free
Elon
Solo
Musk's
guy had.
fault.
Where he just, like, doesn't have any real,
Yeah.
like, sense of consequences or fear or whatever that was. And he just, like, doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Have you heard that story
Yeah.
about on Mission
God,
Impossible 2?
honestly, I think Tom Cruise would be content if he died in space.
I think that's what he
I think
wants,
that's
to
the
be
perfect
honest.
way to send off Tom Cruise
Yeah.
if he died in space. Yeah, I think he wants to die in space.
I
We
read.
should stop trying to stop him.
I read an interview or I was watching an interview with Henry Cavill the other day because I was thinking about Mission Impossible 6. And, you know, there's that whole sequence at the end where, like, Henry Cavill's in a helicopter and Tom Cruise is, like, piloting the other helicopter, like, chasing after him. It's, like, this whole thing because, like, Tom Cruise, like, is, like, an experienced helicopter pilot, and he did all that stuff himself, and he, like, knows how to fly a helicopter, is doing these, like, stunts. And Henry Cavill isn't piloting a helicopter, he's just in a helicopter, but that is still, like, doing some stunts. And somebody asked him, was like, so did you like that? Like, was that, like, a cool, fun experience to be able to do that? And he was like, Tom Cruise is really into that stuff. I am less into that stuff. Like, I was not into
Tom
being
Cruise
in
was
those
just
helicopters.
actively trying to murder me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so funny.
God, I think being in an action sequence with Tom Cruise might just be the scariest thing on the planet.
Yeah, I know.
Because, like, while you're cautious and you want to live, Tom Cruise is gonna drift out into space or crash a helicopter into a cliff or drive a motorcycle off a cliff, and he's just gonna fucking do it. Anytime you're like, maybe I don't want to, Tom Cruise is already doing it, whether you are ready or not.
I genuinely, there's a part of me that
He's
really
not a
thinks
team player.
that eventually Tom Cruise is, like, actually gonna die doing an insane stunt for a movie. And it's gonna become one of these things where, like, we all have to take a hard look at ourselves and be like, we're partially complicit in this, aren't we? Like, we all wanted to see this movie.
Yeah, because, like,
and,
we would let... Because every time he actually jumps out of an airplane, we're like, holy shit, he actually jumped out of an airplane.
That was the coolest shit
and
ever.
now we're gonna be like, holy shit, he actually went into space. Like, we're all enablers.
Yeah, exactly. We're all enabling Tom Cruise.
And then, so the headline is gonna be, Tom Cruise just drifted into space, and it's your fault.
And it's your fault? You have a podcast where you said it was super sick when he was on that airplane.
Tom Cruise drifted into space, and you could have stopped him.
Yeah. This didn't have to happen. Oh my god. I want to see that movie so fucking bad, though.
We're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. God damn it.
God, I wish no ill will towards Tom Cruise. I really want him to die in space, though.
Is this podcast episode gonna age, like, super poorly in 5 years?
Oh, so bad. Oh my god. If Tom Cruise dies in space, we're gonna be in so much trouble.
Oh my god. Okay.
When we start actually finally making merch, can we make a t-shirt that says Tom Cruise just drifted into space and you could have
stopped it?
And it's
God damn
your
it.
fault.
That's good. That's good merch. Ugh. Okay.
And one was C-3PO's ass, and then one that says Adeline was right, and one that says Jackson was right.
With the Aquaman logo.
Yeah. See, once we rebrand for the third and hopefully final time,
yeah,
and I, like, get art that I'm, like, actually proud of, then I can, like, actually start, like, designing some merch, because I think that'd be totally fun.
Yeah, maybe.
And the thing about our art for the podcast is that at this point, it's, like, 2 years old, which means that I hate it now.
Right.
Because I'm a better artist than I was then, so every time we record a podcast, I have to look at this old shitty art I did today.
Right, yeah.
And my just anger grows at myself.
Right.
Because I don't like it anymore.
Well, I mean, yeah, and the, I was trying to think what I was going to say about podcast art and rebranding.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm reticent about doing merch right now. There's a lot of things that I would love to do that I will absolutely not do. Like, not to, like, nag our audience, but, like, because I just know that very few people would actually engage with it, or none. And I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
my own
Oh,
self-esteem would not be able to handle if we
Wouldn't
published
like it,
some
yeah.
merch and then nobody bought it. I'd be like, no, fuck this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And, you know, I'm not trying to be
Now I
passive-aggressive
feel bad.
to our viewers, but, like, that's just the reality of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no, I totally get it. Yeah.
So, Adeline, final thoughts about
Yes.
Adaptation.
Is really good. One thing that I will say, I was not ready to watch a woman give birth in like the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Oh, right, yeah.
I wasn't ready for that.
Give birth to Nicolas Cage.
It's really good. Yeah. There's just straight up footage of a woman giving like actual birth, and you
Right,
like
yeah.
actually see it like in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like it's fine, but I just wasn't ready.
It's nature, Adeline.
Anyway.
Hold on one
It's
sec.
beautiful.
I'm gonna look through the reviews.
It's beautiful and not terrifying. I keep showing off my little gorilla eraser because I love him and he's really weird. And he's got really distinct breasts. Like,
Okay.
I don't know if you can see them, but like he's got real distinct breasts.
So yeah, without making this part of the podcast, like this is the take I was avoiding. This person says the scenes of somebody fantasizing about having sex with women are rape, and I'm like, no, that's not the take I want. That's not.
No.
Anyway, that
you can
person.
see that it makes you uncomfortable. I think that's totally fine.
Yeah.
That's a bad take.
Yeah, not a good take.
Bad
Anyway,
take.
I'm just looking through the reviews here. But yeah, it's like, this seems like the kind of movie that should be just, like, totally pretentious and, like, masturbatory and, like, stuck up and, like, obsessed with itself, you know? But, like, for some reason, it just doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel, like, overly pretentious or, like, you know, self-absorbed.
Yeah.
Even though it literally is
I mean,
somebody,
I think-
like, inserting himself into his own screenplay for his own fucking edification,
Yeah.
you know? That's literally what it is, but
Yeah.
it still is cool. I don't know. I don't know what about this movie makes it not feel totally insufferable.
Like, I honestly think it's because he's such a sad sack. Like, honestly, it's because he's like, I am not confident in my art, so I'm just kind of like, I'm doing something basically easy and self-indulgent, and this is what I'm doing. Like, he's not like, because the movie comes at what they're doing in such like a bad way. He's like, this is a bad movie, and I'm not passionate about what I'm doing, and I'm in a rut with my life and with my art.
Mm-hmm.
Versus coming into a movie and being like, this is amazing, perfect art, look at what a fucking genius I am for being meta. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, because it comes from like such like a low place and then ends in such a high place, it like feels really good, especially as someone who creates art and puts something into the world. That's like, yeah, it's nice that you can get out of that rut and it's really relatable. And surprise, it's hard to relate to someone who's like, I'm a fucking genius. It's like, that's hard to relate to, unless you also have that same, like, complex, basically.
Right, yeah.
Unless you're also like, I'm fucking awesome and perfect and galaxy brain, so
Right.
I like this because it's just as galaxy brain as me. It's like, there's only so many people like that.
Right.
The rest of us have low self-esteem, and I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, but yeah, I don't know, there's something weird about, like, that very opening scene where it's just the voiceover of Nicolas Cage, like, sort of talking to himself, where, there's something that rings so true about it, like, just in the particular things that he says, where he's like, he's just like, I don't like myself, and he's just like, I should work out more, and I should really do it this time, and I should also, there's a line that I think is actually kind of funny, where he's just like, I should learn to speak Chinese. I could be the screenwriter who knows Chinese and can play the oboe. That would be awesome. And, like, there's something about that that was really funny to me.
That's relatable.
Yeah, but you're always like, I should learn to play the trumpet. I asked my parents to buy me a trumpet for my birthday a little while ago, and they did. And I have a trumpet now.
You did do that.
And I have it, and I've, like, been fiddling around with it, but, you know, I have an accordion, and I have a violin, and I have a trumpet that I've been meaning to, like, really learn how to play, and I just have never done it, and I want to so bad, but I just can't make myself do it, and it just turns into that whole thing
Jackson,
of like, what?
if you don't start a ska band by the end of the year, I'm gonna be supremely disappointed in you.
So that I play the trumpet in, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, but I mean, I already play the guitar, and I can play the guitar in a ska band.
Yeah, should our new theme literally just be a ska song? Because that feels right.
That does
honestly,
feel right. To be
for who
frank,
we are.
that feels really right.
That does feel right, though.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah.
gonna write a ska song.
God damn it.
It is gonna have lyrics if it's a ska song, though.
That's fine.
Okay, cool. So just a heads up, you heard it here first.
So now you
in
have
a
to
few
play the
weeks,
trumpet. There you go.
In a few weeks, we're gonna add a third host to this podcast and rebrand, and the new theme is gonna be a ska song, and there's not much that you guys can do about it. Okay. So Adeline, would you like to hear a 1-star review of Adaptation?
I would. I bet it's not pretentious at all.
Wait. I have one more thing I want to say before we get there.
Okay.
One of the things that really drives me insane when it comes to like online film criticism is people.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of how to phrase this because I don't want to say it's like people politicizing movies because all movies are political and like politicizing what they are, what they stand for is totally natural and should be done. But there is a certain type of person.
Surprise! You can't separate politics from things.
Right. But like politicizing like aesthetics of a movie drives me insane. Where it's just like a movie that a certain kind of person that you don't like would like and being like, this is an incel movie and is bad and honestly is reprehensible is like, to me, is like the most infuriating take. Like, I saw, like, just any movie that, like, is sort of pensive and, like, navel-gazy and, like, you know, like a movie like this that, like, thinks it's pretty smart and, like, not that that is not something to criticize, but to, like, politicize it and be like, this is a movie for, that your boyfriend makes you watch and therefore is bad, is, like, infuriating to me.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, I just think
actively politicizing something based on not actual thematic textual content, but just like what kind of movie it is drives me insane.
Well, it's like Fight Club. It's like making a judgment on a film basically based on how it's misinterpreted by its audience.
Yeah.
You know, like
I don't even think it's that. I think
like there's.
Because, like, there is something to be criticized about Fight Club and, like, the content of it. If you view it a certain way, it could be seen as totally reprehensible. Obviously, I don't see it that way, but somebody could, and there's a certain amount of validity to that. I'm thinking of things like... There was a big controversy about... Not controversy. Some person who worked for, like, the Washington Post or something, who was not a film critic, wrote a super bad article about There Will Be Blood a little while ago. About how it's this movie... And it's, like, bad for society because it's the kind of thing that men really like. And it's like, my boyfriend made me watch There Will Be Blood. And we should all move on and pretend like this wasn't a good movie because this is the patriarchy or whatever. And it was, like, literally had nothing to do with the content of the film. It was just, like, this is something that men like. And it is the kind of thing that a certain kind of person would be drawn to. And therefore is like morally reprehensible. That is what drives me insane.
It feels like the opposite. It's like a new flavor of gatekeeping.
Yeah.
It feels like it's invalidating people who like it, regardless if those people are women or people of color or straight white men who are not terrible, you know?
Right,
like it just feels like it's like, if you like this movie, you're the bad guy, even though there may not be anything, like, actually wrong with the movie other than some shitty people like it. It's like, some shitty people like literally everything, and you can't judge a piece of work always by the audience.
Right.
Sometimes there's an argument to be made, like with Fight Club, but there's not always an argument to be
Yeah.
made.
And, like, The Dark Knight is, like, a perfect example. Like, that is a movie
Yeah.
that is, like...
It's a great movie.
First of all, it's, like, an awesome movie. And second of all, there's very little about it that you could, like, sort of misconstrue as being, like, really problematic or, like, you know, like, there's something, like, politically despicable about it. Like, at its heart, it's a pretty softball movie, like, ideologically. And at the end of the day, it's a pretty positive movie in terms of, like, the messaging and what it's saying about the world, in a way, you know?
The two boats don't blow
The
each
two
other
boats
up.
don't blow each other up. That's why that movie
They
rules.
don't.
But it's like,
That
it's become
one
this
big,
thing where
scary
it's like...
inmate is like, no.
Yeah. And that guy's good, and people are good. But that's like one of those things where it's like, this is a film bro movie, and people are like, 0 stars, because my ex-boyfriend liked this movie, and he sucked. So obviously, this movie is part of the reason why he sucked somehow. And it's like, no. Like, don't bring the movie into this.
It's like, hey, I know tons of cool people, a lot of which are women, who dig that movie.
Yeah, because
so,
it's
like,
fucking good. It's good as shit.
Because it's a good movie. It's good. Listen, one of my best friends loves The Joker, and that's an incel movie. So, like, shut up. Like, it's a bad argument.
Anyway, so in that vein, Adeline, would you like to hear a 1-star review of Adaptation?
Yes, I would.
This review comes from Letterboxd.com. They give it 1 star, and they say, "My ex-boyfriend made me watch this after I was bitten in the face by a dog." End of review.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened to you. Were you okay?
Yeah.
Did you?
She was attacked by a
Rottweiler. Sit down for an hour.
And he was like,
and then just
babe,
sat
babe,
down for an hour.
Babe, look at this movie. Babe, check this movie out. It's so smart.
But I mean, like, if you got like medical treatment, and then you're like, oh, I'm a little like shaken up, I need to sit down for a little bit. And your boyfriend's like, oh, we'll put on a movie that I like. I don't know. No.
Anyway, my name's Jackson McMurray.
Situation is what happened.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. Hi, my name's Jackson McMurray.
Is the dog okay?
And this is
No
Nerds Allowed. Whatever.
Like, there is a context where it's okay, but I just don't know what the context is. Did the dog also watch the movie? Was the dog still there? Oh my god, my people are texting me. What is this?
Your people?
Ian, tell Mason to stop sending memes to the group chat when I can't look at them.
Also tell that group chat to watch our fucking podcast.
Yeah, my friends don't fucking support me. It's one of those things where we talk all the time, and like I will like talk about the podcast. Like, well, basically what will happen is that we'll be like talking about a movie that we reviewed on the podcast, and I'll be like expressing my opinion, and we'll be like having a conversation.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh yeah, I talked about this on my podcast, and I said this. And I'd be like, cool. Anyway, and I'm like, okay.
I keep thinking, like, obviously, we have been growing more in the last few months than we ever have been previously. Like, obviously not by a lot, but, like, our podcast numbers on podcast platforms are, like, getting slightly bigger all the time, to the point where it's, like, most of the time we get, like, 10 or 12 people listening to the episode on podcast platforms, which is great. And I'm trying to, like, think about things we could do.
Ian, how dare you actually text the group chat?
But it's, like, things we could do to, like, give ourselves, like, a big signal boost, you know? Like, I've been thinking a lot about, like, Cameo, and, like, a lot of people do, like, shout-outs and stuff, you know, like, you pay them to, and, like, sometimes people will be like, tell my friend happy birthday, and sometimes people are like, plug my podcast. So, like, maybe if I could get, like, fucking Aaron Hansen or somebody who's on Cameo to be like, oh, check out No Nerds Allowed, it's a fun podcast with cool folks. Like, maybe that would be a good bump that we could, like, get a bigger base that we could start exponentially growing from. But I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to figure out. And
Yeah.
we appreciate
I mean,
all of
like,
you guys who are here. We
it's
appreciate
like
that a lot.
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. No, people don't understand how much serotonin I get from like somebody looked at the podcast and I'm like, holy shit, dude, that's cool.
Right,
Like,
yeah. Oh, and I also posted a
what was I gonna
YouTube
say? Yeah,
video about cuties yesterday, and there was a part of me that was worried it was gonna get like totally torn apart by like angry commenters just based on the fact that it had
yeah,
cuties
just
in it.
because.
But it didn't, and it actually
Yeah.
it has like more upvotes than downvotes. It doesn't have any thumbs down
That's
right
cool.
now. So I was like, oh yeah, cool. Like people watched that and they liked what I had to say, which
Yeah.
like feels really nice.
Oh god, what happened? I just lost visual.
It's okay. You just cut your camera out.
What fucking happened was that my friends started texting in the group chat, and then I tried to get rid of the notification, but I just accidentally clicked on it, and then it sent me to the group chat and out of the stream call.
Right.
So, thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Anyway, cool. I think we're just about done here. Yeah. Any final notes for the
Yeah.
enraptured audience?
Yeah. If y'all want to fucking watch us play D&D with like some of our homies, I would fucking I would get on that.
Yeah.
Like I would find a way to make that happen.
Also, just like tell your friends. Like I don't ask people to just like tell your friends about the podcast enough. Like
Yeah.
if
It's
they're
like,
cool, they'll like it. You know.
Yeah. Like just once. Like don't annoy your friends because I'm
Yeah.
petrified of being perceived as annoying, but just like one time.
Yeah. Just be like, hey, there's a cool podcast that some good friends of mine, some good online friends of mine do, where they
Yeah.
fucking talk about movies and think they're super smart, and it's very good.
And they're both white, but one of them is a woman, so it's okay.
Oh, but hey,
Ah.
soon, a
Ah.
not white person.
Ah.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Oh.
I don't know about that.
My hope is to get people
What if we
speculating.
lose followers?
My hope is to get people speculating, but I don't think anybody actually cares enough to to speculate
Yeah.
about who it could be.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Kate is real down to play Among Us, so I think that would be fun.
Yeah, we
Like,
could
just
do
be
that
like, hey,
eventually. I want to
you
start
wanna-
like just doing like streaming video games every once in a while more often. It'd be fun to like play Mario on stream again, or like
Yeah.
maybe I can
Or we
get
could
Mario
play- I
35
wanna-
and play Mario Sunshine or something.
Yeah, no, I want to play 3D Mario 3D World, because that's a fun game
The game
to
fucking
watch people
rips.
play.
Yeah,
That game
it
fucking rips.
it sucks that we can't like play it together.
No, whenever you come here, which may be never, but eventually.
Well, not never.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there is the Switch port coming out. I don't think that'll have online multiplayer though. If it does
It
have online
might.
multiplayer, we could like play it and stream
That
it
would slap.
hypothetically.
Yeah.
But I don't think that is the kind of thing they're likely to do, frankly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Who's to say? It's Nintendo, so you never
Who's
know.
to say? I know, fucking Bioshock came out on the Switch, and I might have to buy Bioshock again.
We should, although I think the two of us should do a like shitty Super Nintendo game on the Switch library stream at some point,
We'll play like tennis.
where we play like Super Soccer or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that would be super
Or what's
fun.
What's that football game that we're playing at Thanksgiving that fucking sucked?
Oh, it was like whatever. I don't know. Super Nintendo football
Football.
game.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Nintendo
thanks.
football.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for showing up for a stream. We appreciate you. We
Thank
love
you.
all our listeners
We
like
love
you were.
all of you individually.
Like you were our own children. Let me open up Chrome and get back onto YouTube so I can stop the stream. Give me just a minute, but in the meantime, I'll just say
Okay.
that we appreciate you and we love you very much,
Wow.
each individually. We don't play favorites.
Yeah.
And
We do like one of you more than we like the rest of you, but we're not gonna say who.
drama.
This is phase 1 of our new gatekeeping policy.
Let's be like, some of our viewers are not quite pulling their weight around here.
We love some of our viewers.
Okay, one sec. Sorry, just a sec. because I have OBS open and I can just stop the stream on OBS, but then obviously
Yeah, but
like the content stops, but then like the stream on YouTube kind of keeps going until I go into Chrome, and so that'll mess it up. If one time I just forgot and it made the stream be like 1 day and 13 hours because I like went on like the next night and it was like, whoops, that's still on.
Oh no.
But it also like corrects itself when that happens eventually. Regardless, whatever. Okay. 1 second.
Oh no, Cade.
This is bad
Cade, don't
content.
say that.
What did Cade say?
Cade is like, it's not me. I specifically cultivate hatred of me. Oh no.
Okay. And we are stopping the stream in 3, 2, 1 now.
Ah!
Oh wait, are you sure? Yes.